in the vast, serene expanse of the ancient seas, where the whispers of the gods are carried by the wind and the waves, there exists a figure whose story flows with the tides of time. Calypso, the nymph of Ogygia. She dwells in a land untouched by the hand of man, a place where nature reigns in tranquil solitude, and the endless stretch of the ocean meets the horizon in an eternal embrace. This is a story of love, loss, and the delicate balance between freedom and the desires of the heart. A tale that begins with a divine lineage, where the immortal Calypso, daughter of the mighty Titan Atlas, finds herself in the midst of fate's woven threads. Here, on her secluded island, she will encounter a shipwrecked hero, and their paths will forever intertwine. Yet, as the gods look down from Olympus, they will decide that even the most powerful of bonds must eventually break. Join me as we journey through the myth of Calypso, a story where beauty, sorrow, and the sea merge into one eternal rhythm. As you listen, allow the soft waves of this tale to carry you into the world of the gods, where time slows and sleep comes softly. If you enjoy this peaceful tale, please like, subscribe, and share where you're listening from. In the deep, untouched realms of Greek mythology, where the ocean's vastness merges with the divine, Calypso emerges as a powerful and enigmatic figure. Her origins trace back to the ancient Titans, the primordial beings who once ruled over the world before the gods of Olympus took their place. Calypso is the daughter of the mighty Titan Atlas, who holds the heavens upon his shoulders, a figure of strength and endurance whose duty is eternal. From him, Calypso inherits not only her divine bloodline, but also her immense connection to the natural world, particularly the waters of the earth. Calypso's mother is not often named in the myths, leaving an air of mystery around the specifics of her parentage. Some tellers of the myth suggest that she was one of the Oceanids, the daughters of the Titan Oceanus, whose names were scattered across the waves and rivers. In these versions, Calypso's affinity for water is said to be inherited from her mother's lineage, a symbol of the fluidity and timeless nature of her existence. Her name, Calypso, carries meaning in the ancient Greek language, derived from the word kalypto, meaning to conceal or to hide. This fitting name speaks to her role as a figure of mystery and seclusion, a nymph whose presence is often veiled in the hidden recesses of the world. She resides on the isolated island of Ogygia, far from the reach of mortal men and the bustling cities of the gods. Here, Calypso's existence unfolds in harmony with the natural rhythms of the earth, her home bathed in the gentle embrace of the sea breeze, the rustling of the trees, and the songs of the waves that crash softly against the shore. Ogygia itself is a place of unmatched beauty, an idyllic sanctuary where the tides flow peacefully and the land is lush with an abundance of life. It is a place that exists outside the confines of time, untouched by the hand of civilization. Calypso, as its mistress, commands the island's natural elements, bending the winds and tides to her will, a reminder of her divine nature. Yet despite the splendor of her home, Ogygia is not a place of great crowds or celebrations, but one of quiet isolation, a retreat from the noise of the world. Though Calypso is powerful and immortal, she is not a goddess in the traditional sense. She is a nymph, a lesser divine being with an immense connection to nature rather than the grand powers of the gods on Mount Olympus. Her realm is the realm of the natural world, winds, tides, trees, and the earth itself. As a nymph, She has the ability to shape the world around her, controlling the forces of nature with the quiet confidence that only immortals possess. Her immortal nature, though, is not one of total independence. Calypso's existence is deeply intertwined with the will of the gods, though she moves in the shadows of their grandeur. It is the will of the gods, after all, that determines the course of Calypso's life and the fate of those who come to her island. In the grand tapestry of Greek mythology, Calypso's name is not one that is frequently spoken. Her story does not unfold in the great halls of Olympus or amidst the busy streets of the mortal cities. Instead, hers is a quieter tale, one marked by moments of solitude and reflection. She is a figure of both beauty and sorrow, a nymph who, despite her divine heritage, is bound by forces beyond her control. The gods, though powerful, do not always hold sway over every aspect of fate. There is a depth to Calypso's story that is often overlooked, a story of a nymph who, though powerful, is unable to escape the intricacies of love, loss, and destiny. Her narrative is bound to the hero Odysseus, whose fate intertwines with hers in the most unexpected of ways. But before his arrival, Calypso's life was one of peaceful solitude, interrupted only by the occasional presence of the gods who occasionally visited her island. She is an immortal, yes, but her life is not without its moments of longing, its moments of quiet desire for something beyond her island's shores. Calypso's early life on Ogygia is not a tale of conflict or grand battles, but of serene beauty. Her days are filled with the quiet enjoyment of the natural world, with only the company of the winds, the seas, and the creatures of the island. She is content in her solitude, at peace with the land she calls home. Her connection to the world is one of harmony, where everything has its place and balance. But even in this peaceful existence, there is a yearning, a quiet sense that something is missing. Calypso is not like the other nymphs who are free to wander the earth, visiting the great cities or enjoying the company of the gods. She is bound to Ogygia, her presence at once both a blessing and a burden. Though she has everything she could ever need, beauty, power, immortality, there is something within her that seeks more. This sense of longing would become the undercurrent of her story, one that would ultimately shape her fate and her interactions with the hero who would forever change her life. It is in this quiet, timeless existence that Calypso's story begins. Her place in the mythic world is one of stillness and observation, a watcher of the world rather than an active participant in it. And yet, like all things in Greek mythology, the threads of fate are never still for long. Calypso's quiet world would soon be shattered, not by the clash of gods or titans, but by the arrival of a single mortal. Ogygia, the island of Calypso, is a realm untouched by time, a sanctuary where the hands of mortals and the winds of fate never truly reach. It lies hidden from the world, secluded within the vast expanse of the Mediterranean Sea, its shores lined with soft sands and its forests dense with trees that whisper the secrets of the ages. The island is surrounded by the deep blue waters that sparkle under the sun, with waves that gently kiss the shore, and the air is thick with the scent of salt and sea. It is a paradise of natural beauty, a place where time slows and the worries of the world are far removed. The lush greenery of Ogygia is untouched by the hands of man. The island is abundant in life, tall, ancient trees, flowers of every hue, and sparkling streams that wind their way through the land, carving peaceful paths through the earth. The mountains rise in the distance, their peaks obscured by the mist that constantly hovers over the island, giving it an ethereal, otherworldly quality. Everything about Ogygia speaks of peace, of isolation, of a place where nothing and no one can intrude upon the quiet balance of nature. It is here, in this tranquil realm, that Calypso resides. Though a daughter of the Titans, she has no need for grand palaces or cities. Instead, she lives within a cave carved into the island's rock, a hidden retreat where the outside world can never reach her. The cave is a sanctuary, decorated with the finest treasures of the earth. Soft cushions woven from seaweed, beautiful shells, and glowing stones that give off a warm, calming light. The walls are covered with tapestries made of delicate leaves and flowers, stitched with the care only an immortal could provide. It is in this cave that Calypso spends her days, surrounded by the natural beauty of her home, and yet, ever so subtly, she is bound by an emptiness that the island itself cannot fill. For Calypso, Ogygia is both a place of refuge and a prison. She has everything she could ever need: beauty, immortality, and a serene world untouched by the outside. And yet, despite all the abundance of nature surrounding her, she feels the weight of solitude. The island is quiet, devoid of the bustling noise of gods, mortals, and the affairs of the outside world. Here, time flows in slow, measured rhythms. The seasons pass in gentle cycles, but there are no festivals, no gatherings, no celebrations. Only the company of the wind, the birds, and the occasional presence of the gods, who visit only when it suits them. It is a place of stillness, of long, endless days where Calypso's only companions are the forces of nature, the elements that she controls with the ease of a being who understands them intimately. The winds bend to her will, and the tides too follow her desires. She can call the rains or summon the sun at will, and the creatures of the island are loyal to her. In many ways, Ogygia is the perfect home for a nymph of her power, offering her a world where nature is her closest companion. But in this silence, Calypso's heart is a hollow one, her immortal soul longing for something more. Though she can command nature, Calypso cannot command the human heart, and this proves to be her greatest longing. She watches as the days pass by, one after the other, each as peaceful and quiet as the last, and her heart begins to ache with the stillness. She longs for companionship beyond the natural world, someone who could fill the empty space inside her that the beauty of Ogygia cannot. It is not the beauty of the island that she desires most, but the connection that she craves, the connection to another being. And then, fate intervenes. On a day that begins like any other, the gentle winds begin to stir, carrying with them a new presence. From the depths of the sea, a shipwrecked man is carried onto the shores of her island. His name is Odysseus, a mortal who, after facing the trials of a long and tumultuous journey, has found himself washed ashore on Ogygia. The gods, in their eternal games, have brought him to this hidden place, and in him, Calypso sees the answer to her longing. Odysseus, battered and weary from his travels, is discovered by Calypso as he lies on the sands, his body broken and his spirit fading. She finds him there, struggling to stay conscious, and her heart stirs with both pity and something deeper, an emotion she cannot yet name. In her, the desire to help and to care for this man awakens. She carries him to her cave, tending to his wounds and nursing him back to health. The touch of her hands is gentle, and her voice, though never raised in anger or harshness, is soothing. She is not only a figure of immense power, but also of kindness and care, qualities that she freely offers to Odysseus, the stranger washed upon her shore. As the days pass, Odysseus grows stronger, his strength returning under Calypso's tender care. He awakens to find himself in a place unlike any he has ever known, a realm where the rush of time seems to have ceased and everything moves at the pace of the natural world. In the island's peaceful solitude, Odysseus is free to rest and recover, but even in this calm, he begins to sense that his journey is far from over. He knows that the seas have brought him to Ogygia for a reason, but what that reason is, he does not yet understand. For Calypso, this encounter marks the beginning of something she has longed for: companionship. Odysseus, though mortal, is a being of great strength and intellect, and his presence fills her island with a new energy. For the first time in her immortal existence, she does not feel so alone. As the days pass on Ogygia, Calypso and Odysseus grow accustomed to each other's presence. Though Odysseus arrived on the island broken and exhausted, he begins to regain his strength, and with it, his spirit. He is no longer the weary traveller who washed ashore, but a man slowly restored by the tender care of the nymph who has taken him in. For Calypso, this healing is not merely physical. As the mortal's health improves, she finds herself increasingly drawn to him. Her heart, once still and empty, begins to stir with feelings that she has not known in centuries of existence. Odysseus, though a mere mortal, is unlike any of the other beings she has encountered in her long life. He is strong, clever, and full of determination, qualities that spark admiration and intrigue in Calypso. Her affection for him deepens as she watches him recover, his mind sharp and his wit still intact despite the hardships he has endured. She is not just the caretaker now, but a woman who feels a growing connection to the man she has saved. For Odysseus, the island of Ogygia is unlike any place he has encountered. It is a world apart from the chaos of the mortal realm, a place untouched by the conflicts that have plagued his life. Though he is still a man of great longing, his heart set on returning to Ithaca, to his wife, Penelope, and his son, Telemachus, he cannot help but be moved by the peace that Calypso's island offers him. Here he can rest. He can forget, if only for a moment, the trials of his journey and the gods who have shaped his fate. But even as he enjoys the comfort and beauty of the island, he begins to sense something deeper in his connection with Calypso. It is not just the warmth of the sun or the sound of the waves that soothes him, but the gentle presence of the nymph herself. She is a being of great beauty, both in appearance and in spirit. Her kindness is endless, and her attentiveness to him seems almost divine in its care. He is drawn to her, not just by her physical form, but by her quiet strength, her wisdom, and the way she seems to understand him in a way no one else ever has. Yet there is something about their connection that leaves Odysseus unsettled. Though he feels gratitude and a growing affection for Calypso, he is also torn. His heart still yearns for his home. Ithaca, with its rugged cliffs and familiar shores, is where his family waits for him. No matter how much he is drawn to the beauty and peace of Ogygia, he cannot shake the longing to return to the life he left behind. It is this conflict that begins to simmer. Beneath the surface, a subtle tension that neither he nor Calypso can ignore. Calypso, too, feels the undercurrent of this tension, though she does not fully understand it. She has lived for centuries, and in all that time, she has never encountered someone like Odysseus. Her feelings for him are genuine, and she begins to see in him the possibility of something that she has never known: true companionship, a bond that transcends her usual isolation. But she is no fool. She knows that Odysseus is a mortal man, and that his heart may never be truly hers. She is not without knowledge of the ways of love, and though her own heart desires him, she cannot ignore the fact that he is bound by other loyalties. Still, she hopes. Perhaps, in time, he will come to see that Ogygia, with all its beauty and peace, is the place where he belongs. Perhaps he will come to understand that the love she offers him is one that could last for eternity. In the quiet moments they share, Calypso finds herself imagining a future where Odysseus stays with her on Ogygia. She imagines the two of them living together in harmony, untouched by the worries of the world. She envisions a life filled with love and contentment, one where time slows and their bond grows deeper with each passing day. But these thoughts are fleeting, for she knows that such dreams are not easily realized. Odysseus is a man of the world, and though he may be here with her now, she cannot keep him forever. His destiny lies beyond the shores of her island, and Calypso knows that one day he will yearn to return to the world that he left behind. For Odysseus, the gentle affection he feels for Calypso is a source of both comfort and confusion. He is drawn to her in ways that he does not fully understand. She is kind, compassionate, and devoted to him in a way that feels almost too perfect. Yet, despite the peace she offers, his heart is restless. There is something about Calypso's love that feels both all-encompassing and suffocating. She is an immortal being, and her love is eternal, something Odysseus as a mortal man cannot offer in return. Though he cares for her deeply, he knows that his life and his love belong to another. His heart remains steadfast in its longing for Ithaca, even as it aches for the woman who has captured it here. The quiet days on Ogygia pass in a peaceful haze, and yet both Calypso and Odysseus sense the inevitability of what is to come. There is a tension in the air, a sense that their time together is limited, that something must change. Though they are bound by a growing affection for each other, they are also bound by the forces of fate. Calypso knows that love alone cannot keep Odysseus by her side, and Odysseus knows that no matter how much he cares for her, his destiny lies elsewhere. It is this realization, the awareness that their bond cannot last forever, that begins to shape the course of their relationship. Their growing affection for each other is tempered by the knowledge that it is fragile, a fleeting moment in the grand sweep of time. And as the days stretch on, both Calypso and Odysseus begin to sense that their love, while real, may not be enough to overcome the call of duty, home, and the gods. In the stillness of Ogygia, as the seasons gently shift, Calypso's feelings for Odysseus evolve into something far more profound than mere affection. At first, it was the instinctual desire to care for him, the compassion of a healer and the solace of a caretaker. But as the days blend together, Calypso finds herself bound not just by a sense of duty, but by a love that is more than her immortal heart ever imagined possible. Her love for Odysseus is unlike any love she has known. It is not born of the gods' whims or the forces of fate, but of a deep, authentic connection, one that transcends the physical beauty of her island, the tranquility of her life. He is a mortal, a being whose life will end one day, whose heart is tied to the world beyond her shores. And yet Calypso's love for him grows in the silence of their days together. She finds herself captivated by his wit, his intelligence, and the fire of determination that has never dimmed, even in the face of so many trials. She admires his wisdom, his ability to adapt to every challenge with a quiet grace. He is a man of strength, of leadership, and of deep emotion. A man who carries the weight of his journey on his shoulders, yet still holds the light of hope. Each day, Calypso watches Odysseus, not just as a healer, but as a woman in love. Her gaze lingers on him, not with the sharpness of observation, but with the tenderness of one who has begun to see him as something more than the survivor of a shipwreck. To her, he is no longer a stranger washed ashore, but the man who has entered her life and awakened feelings that have lain dormant for centuries. She feels the stirrings of longing in her heart, the kind that comes not just from affection, but from something deeper, something that connects their souls. She imagines what it would be like to share eternity with him, to be his companion for all time. In the quiet of her cave, she dreams of a life where she is no longer alone, where the two of them, immortal and mortal, could coexist in harmony. But Calypso is no naive child. She understands the reality of their bond. She knows that Odysseus is not hers to keep. He is a man bound by the mortal world, by duty, by love for his wife and son, and by the relentless tug of fate. Her love for him, though deep and sincere, is not enough to erase the ties that bind him to his homeland. Still, she cannot help but hope, a hope that grows stronger with each passing day. For Odysseus, the reality of Calypso's love is both a gift and a burden. He feels the warmth of her affection, the gentleness with which she cares for him, and he is moved by the depth of her devotion. She is unlike any woman he has ever known. There is something ethereal about her, something timeless that makes her both a comfort and a mystery. He is drawn to her, but at the same time, he is pulled by the memory of his family, by the promises he made before the gods, and by the desire to return to Ithaca. Odysseus cannot deny the peace that Calypso offers him. Her island is a sanctuary, a place where he can rest without the constant weight of war, of struggle, of uncertainty. It is a place where his body and mind are healed, where he can forget the hardships of his journey, if only for a moment. Yet this peace comes at a price, the price of his longing for home, for the wife he left behind, and the life he once had. He cannot stay with Calypso, no matter how much he admires her, for his heart is still tethered to Ithaca. He knows that his duty lies elsewhere, with his family, with his kingdom. Still, Odysseus is moved by the love Calypso offers. It is a love that comes without condition, without the complexities of mortal relationships. She offers him everything she has, her heart, her home, her island, without question. It is a love that is eternal, not bound by the limitations of time or space. In her presence, Odysseus feels both comfort and sorrow, for he knows that this love, though sincere, cannot last. Calypso's love is also complicated by her immortality. She is a nymph, a creature of nature, timeless and ever-present. But she is also a being who lives in solitude. She has watched the world change around her, seen the rise and fall of kingdoms, the birth and death of heroes. And through it all, she has remained the same. Her immortality is a gift and a curse. She can live forever, but she is trapped in a world of stillness, of isolation. She has never known true companionship, save for the occasional visits of the gods. And now she has found a man, a mortal, who stirs something deep within her, something she never thought she could feel. The dichotomy of her love for Odysseus, her desire to keep him with her, and her understanding that he cannot stay, is a constant ache in her heart. She knows that the time will come when she must let him go, when the pull of the outside world will be too strong for him to resist. And yet she holds on to the hope that, in time, he might come to see Ogygia, not just as a place of healing, but as a home, a place where he can find peace, not only with his body, but with his heart. As the days pass, the love between Calypso and Odysseus deepens, but so too does the tension between them. Calypso's heart yearns for him to choose her, to remain with her in the peaceful seclusion of Ogygia. She dreams of a future where they are together, where she can offer him a life free of strife and hardship. But Odysseus, though he cares for her deeply, knows that his destiny lies beyond the shores of Ogygia. His love for Penelope, his duty to his son, and the pull of his homeland weigh heavily on him, and he cannot forsake them, no matter how much Calypso's love promises. In this quiet, unspoken struggle, the foundation for the conflict that will shape their story is laid. The love that Calypso offers is pure, but it is also one that comes with the understanding that nothing, not even love, can change the course of fate. As Calypso's affection for Odysseus deepens, she begins to recognize the weight of the choice that he faces. The pull of Ithaca, the longing for his home and family, remains ever present in Odysseus's heart. But Calypso, in her boundless love for him, believes she can offer him something that will erase the need to return to his mortal world: immortality. She believes that by offering him eternity, she can keep him by her side forever, free from the burdens of his past, free from the struggles of mortal life. Her island, Ogygia, is a sanctuary, untouched by the turmoil of the outside world. Here, Odysseus could live without fear, without conflict, without the loss of those he loves. Calypso believes that if she gives him this gift, the weight of his longing for Ithaca will fade, and the two of them can live together forever. In her mind, it is the perfect solution, the gift of time itself, without end. But the decision is not an easy one, and Calypso knows it. She does not make this offer lightly, for she understands the complexity of what she is asking. She is not offering him immortality out of a sense of selfishness or desire for control. She offers it out of love. To her, this is the greatest gift she can give: a life free from the ravages of time, a life with her on Ogygia, where they can be together without the constraints of mortality. Calypso approaches Odysseus with her proposal one quiet evening as the sun sets over the tranquil sea. The waves gently lap at the shore, and the golden light dances upon the waters. It is in this serene moment that she speaks, her voice calm but full of emotion. She tells Odysseus of the gift she is offering him, the chance to live with her forever, without the pain of aging or the sorrow of time's passing. In her eyes, she hopes to see the answer that she longs for, her hope that he will choose her, that he will stay with her on Ogygia to be her companion for eternity. The idea is tempting, and Odysseus cannot deny the comfort it offers. He has spent so many years in hardship, caught between the will of the gods and the struggle of his journey. To live forever, free of pain, free of loss, seems like a dream. He imagines the peace he could find here, in the stillness of Ogygia, with no more wars, no more wanderings, no more battles to fight. He could forget the pain of his past, forget the years spent lost and adrift. With Calypso, he could live without fear, without the gnawing ache of time passing. But even as the offer settles in his heart, Odysseus feels a deep sense of unease. He knows that no gift, not even immortality, can erase the truth of who he is. He is a man bound to the mortal world, tied to his wife, Penelope, and his son, Telemachus. Their love, their memories, and their future together are etched into the very core of his being. Calypso's offer is kind and generous, but it cannot replace the love he feels for his family. He cannot accept immortality, for doing so would mean abandoning the life he has fought so hard to protect. As Calypso looks at him, her eyes filled with hope, Odysseus is filled with sorrow. He wishes he could give her the answer she desires, but he knows in his heart that it is impossible. No matter how much he cares for her, no matter how deep his affection for her island and her gentle spirit, he cannot forsake his duty. He has promised Penelope that he will return to her, that he will be with her once more. His bond to Ithaca, to his family, is something that no gift of immortality could replace. Calypso watches him closely, her heart aching as she sees the conflict in his eyes. She understands. She has lived for centuries, and she knows the pull of love, the loyalty that runs deeper than any physical pleasure, deeper than the promise of eternal life. She knows that Odysseus is not hers to keep, that his heart belongs to another. But in that moment, she also realizes the depth of her own love for him. She has spent so many years in solitude, and now she must let go of the one being who has filled her life with purpose. She offers him immortality because she believes it is the best way to keep him, to give him everything she can. But deep inside, she understands that love cannot be forced. It must come freely. Odysseus, though filled with sorrow, makes his decision. He cannot accept Calypso's offer. He thanks her for her kindness, for the care she has given him, and for the beauty of the life she has offered him on Ogygia. But his heart, bound to his family and his home, cannot stay. He tells her that, though he will always carry the memory of her and her island, he must return to Ithaca, to the life he once knew. It is a painful decision, one that cuts deeply for both of them, but it is the only one that feels true to his heart. Calypso, though heartbroken, does not stop him. She has spent enough time in the world of gods and mortals to understand that love cannot be captured by force. She has given him the choice, and now she must let him go. There is no anger in her heart, only sadness. A sadness that is not of betrayal, but of the quiet acceptance that comes with knowing that love must always be free. She promises to help him, to give him the means to leave Ogygia and return to his home. She will build him a ship, provide him with the tools to sail across the seas, and send him on his way with her blessing. In this final act of love, Calypso lets go of her hopes of immortality and embraces the reality of Odysseus's decision. The gift of immortality, though beautiful and generous, is not meant to be. It is a fleeting moment in the grand story of Calypso's life, a life that will continue long after Odysseus has gone, but one that will always carry the memory of the mortal man who captured her heart. The days following Odysseus's decision to refuse Calypso's offer of immortality are filled with a quiet tension. Though the nymph has given him her blessing, the sorrow in her heart is palpable. Her love for him remains unchanged, yet she knows that, despite her wishes, Odysseus must return to the world he left behind. Calypso's island, for all its peace and beauty, is not the place for a mortal man who yearns for his family and his home. Odysseus, too, feels the weight of his decision. He is torn between the peaceful sanctuary that Calypso offers and the life he must return to in Ithaca. The journey has been long, and the trials have been arduous. He has endured the wrath of the gods, the horrors of war, and the deep loneliness that comes with being lost for so many years. Yet, despite all that, his heart is resolute in its longing for Ithaca, for Penelope, and for the life he left behind. The love he has for Calypso, though genuine and deep, cannot replace the ties that bind him to his homeland. Still, there is a part of Odysseus that regrets the decision, that mourns the love he leaves behind. There are moments when he looks out over the endless sea, at the horizon that stretches beyond sight, and he feels the pull of the island's quiet beauty, the pull of Calypso's affection. Her love, offered so freely, seems like an answer to the weariness that clings to his soul. But the longing for his family is stronger. It is a force he cannot deny, no matter how much his heart aches for the peace of Ogygia. Calypso, too, feels this inner conflict. She understands Odysseus's choice, yet she cannot escape the grief that it brings. The love she has given so freely is not enough to bind him to her side. She knows that his destiny lies beyond the shores of Ogygia, in a land where she cannot follow. Despite the tenderness she feels for him, she accepts that the time has come for him to go. Yet, in the depths of her heart, there is a lingering hope that he might choose her, that somehow the gods might intervene and change his fate. And so it is that the gods, who have long played their role in the lives of mortals, intervene once more. Zeus, the king of the gods, looks down from his throne on Mount Olympus and sees the struggle that has unfolded on the island of Ogygia. He knows that Odysseus's journey must continue, that his fate is tied to the return to Ithaca, to the fulfillment of the promises he made. Though Odysseus has suffered much, it is time for him to be reunited with his family, and the gods will not stand in the way of his return any longer. It is at Zeus' command that Hermes, the messenger god, is sent to Calypso's island. Hermes, with his winged sandals and his swift feet, travels across the seas to deliver the message from the gods. When he arrives on Ogygia, the island is peaceful, bathed in the soft glow of twilight. The winds are still, and the air is filled with the scent of the sea. But as Hermes approaches, there is a tension in the air, an unspoken knowledge that this visit will change everything. Calypso receives Hermes with a calm grace, though the moment he arrives, she senses the weight of his presence. She knows that he brings news from the gods, and she fears that it is not news she will want to hear. Still, she listens as Hermes speaks, as the messenger of the gods delivers Zeus' command that she must release Odysseus. The message is clear. Odysseus must leave Ogygia and continue his journey home. Though Calypso has offered him immortality, though she has cared for him and loved him, the will of the gods is not to be denied. Odysseus's fate lies beyond her island, and no mortal, not even one as powerful as Calypso, can stand in the way of the gods' will. As Hermes delivers the message, Calypso listens in silence, her heart heavy with grief. She has known this moment was coming, but it does not make it any easier. The gods have spoken, and there is no room for argument. Though Calypso is a nymph, Powerful in her own right, she is not immune to the whims of the gods. She cannot defy them, and so she must let Odysseus go. The nymph is not angry, for she knows that the gods' decisions are often beyond understanding. But there is a deep sadness in her heart, for she understands that this is the final chapter in the story of her love for Odysseus. She cannot keep him, and the weight of that reality settles upon her like the tide that crashes against the shore. When Hermes finishes delivering his message, Calypso speaks, her voice soft and filled with sorrow. She tells Hermes that she will do as the gods have commanded, but that does not ease the ache in her heart. She has loved Odysseus as no other, and though she knows she must release him, she cannot help but mourn the love that will never be. Hermes, understanding the depth of Calypso's sorrow, gives her a moment of quiet before he leaves. He knows that this is a difficult task, one that requires more than just obedience to the gods. It requires a sacrifice of the heart. In the end, Calypso agrees. She will not keep Odysseus against the will of the gods. She will help him build a ship, give him the tools he needs to sail across the sea, and send him on his way. She knows that this is the only way to truly set him free. Though it breaks her heart, she will do as the gods command, for she understands that sometimes love must be let go. And so, the stage is set. Calypso will help Odysseus leave Ogygia, but the sorrow of parting will remain with her, as it always does with those who love deeply. She will see him go, but her heart will forever hold the memory of the man who once came to her shores, and whom she loved with all the depth of her immortal soul. As the winds of change blow over Ogygia, Calypso's heart is heavy, burdened by a sorrow that has settled deep within her. The god's will has been made clear, and Odysseus, the mortal man she has come to love, must leave her island and continue his journey. Though she understands that the fates are beyond her control, the ache of parting still lingers within her immortal soul. She has loved Odysseus with a depth she has never known, but she now realizes that her love, pure and selfless though it may be, cannot bind him to her forever. The island of Ogygia, once a haven of solitude and peace, now feels like an empty place. The laughter of Odysseus, the quiet conversations they shared, and the soft moments of affection they exchanged have all left their mark upon the island. It is a place of beauty and serenity, yes, but now it feels hollow. Calypso, in her immortal wisdom, understands that her love for Odysseus must be tempered by the reality of fate. She cannot keep him here, no matter how much she wishes it. And so, in the stillness of the evening, when the sky is painted with the soft hues of twilight, Calypso sets her heart to the task that she has known is coming. She will help Odysseus leave Ogygia. She will give him the means to sail away from her shores and return to the mortal world. In doing so, she is not just fulfilling the will of the gods, but also offering him one last gift, the gift of freedom. Calypso's love for Odysseus is not a love that seeks to possess him, but a love that seeks his happiness, even if that happiness lies beyond her reach. She knows that his heart belongs to Ithaca, to Penelope, and to his family. And though the sorrow of losing him is overwhelming, she understands that she must let him go, for his destiny lies elsewhere. She cannot stand in the way of that destiny, no matter how much it breaks her heart. The process of helping Odysseus is not one of mere duty. It is a final act of compassion. Calypso goes to her cave, where she gathers the tools that will help him on his journey. She knows that Odysseus is capable, a man of resourcefulness and intelligence. But she also understands the dangers that lie ahead. She cannot protect him from everything, but she will give him what he needs to ensure that his journey is as safe as possible. She offers him a ship, a vessel that will carry him across the seas, far from Ogygia and the life they could have shared. She provides him with provisions, food and supplies that will sustain him on his voyage. In her hands, the very winds of the island seem to shift, and the sea becomes her ally as she helps prepare Odysseus for the journey ahead. The waters that once brought him to her are now the waters that will carry him away. As she gives him the ship and the provisions, Calypso also gives him something more, a piece of her heart woven into the fabric of his journey. She knows that the road ahead will not be easy, that the gods and the world beyond Ogygia are full of trials and tribulations. But she believes in Odysseus's strength, in his ability to overcome whatever challenges lie before him. She believes that he will return to Ithaca, to the family and the life he longs for, and that this journey will be the final chapter in a story that has stretched across many years. Odysseus, for his part, is filled with gratitude and sorrow. He looks at Calypso, the woman who has cared for him, who has loved him without hesitation, and he feels a deep sadness at the thought of leaving her. Her beauty, her kindness, and her unwavering devotion are a balm to his weary soul. He has come to see Ogygia not just as a place of healing, but as a home. A place where, for a brief moment in time, he was free from the hardships of his journey. And yet, his heart remains with his family, with Penelope and Telemachus, and he knows that he cannot stay. He thanks Calypso for her kindness, for the love she has shown him, and for the gift she now gives him, his passage home. He tells her that he will carry her memory with him always, and that, though they must part, she will never be forgotten. There is a tenderness in his voice, a sincerity that shows how much he has come to care for her, even though his heart will always belong to Ithaca. Calypso listens in silence, her heart aching, but her resolve firm. She has done what she can. She has loved him without condition, and now she must let him go. She watches as he prepares to board the ship, the very vessel that will carry him away from her shores. The sorrow of parting weighs heavily on her, but she knows that this is the right thing to do. Love, she understands, is not always about possession. Sometimes it is about letting go, even when it breaks you. As Odysseus steps aboard the ship, Calypso watches him one last time. The man who has brought light into her solitary world is now leaving her. The winds of fate have shifted, and though her heart is filled with sorrow, there is also a quiet peace that settles over her. She has given him the freedom to choose his path, and in doing so, she has shown him the depth of her love. She knows that he will sail away, but her memory will remain with him, just as his memory will remain with her. The ship sets sail, and Calypso watches as Odysseus disappears into the horizon, the fading light of the setting sun casting a golden glow over the waters. She stands on the shores of Ogygia, the island that has been her home for so long, and she feels the weight of her decision, the weight of love, of loss, and of the eternal nature of the sea. The tides will carry Odysseus away, but the love that Calypso has given him will remain, carried in the winds and the waves, a quiet testament to a bond that was never meant to last, but that will never be forgotten. As the ship carrying Odysseus disappears over the horizon, Calypso stands alone on the shores of Ogygia, the last traces of twilight fading into the darkness of night. The gentle whispers of the sea, which once seemed to echo the warmth of her days with Odysseus, now feel distant and cold. Her heart, filled with the deep sorrow of parting, aches with a quiet emptiness. The island, once alive with the sound of their shared moments, now feels eerily still. Calypso has lived for centuries in solitude, her days passing in a timeless rhythm dictated by the rise and fall of the tides. Yet, even with her immortal existence, the weight of loneliness has never been so heavy. She has known isolation before, but this emptiness, this sense of loss, is something entirely new. It is not just the absence of Odysseus's presence that weighs on her heart. It is the knowledge that she has given him everything she could, her love, her care, her very soul, and still he must leave her. It is a sorrow that transcends time, for it is a sorrow that comes with loving a mortal man. Her love for Odysseus was never meant to be. From the very beginning, she knew that his heart belonged to another, that his journey was always leading him home. And yet, despite the knowledge that their love was fleeting, Calypso could not deny the depth of her feelings for him. He was the one mortal who had broken through her walls, who had brought light to her otherwise solitary existence. She had cared for him, tended to his wounds, and offered him a love that was as eternal as the sea itself. For a brief moment, she had known what it was to love and be loved in return. And yet, that love was not enough to keep him. The gods had spoken, and her heart had to let him go. Now, as the days stretch on without him, Calypso finds herself struggling to fill the silence that surrounds her. The island, once vibrant with the echoes of their conversations, now seems as quiet as the ocean itself. She walks through the lush forests of Ogygia, but the trees no longer seem to whisper their secrets to her. The winds that once carried her name across the seas now seem distant, as though even nature itself mourns the absence of Odysseus. She can no longer look out over the sparkling waters without feeling the pang of longing, the empty space where he used to stand beside her. She returns to her cave, the place where she had cared for Odysseus, and where, for a short while, they had shared their lives. The cave is the same, yet it feels different now. The soft cushions made of seaweed, the tapestries woven from the island's flora, the gentle glow of the stones. Everything remains as it was, but it all feels cold without him. She sits alone in the quiet, the silence of the cave pressing in around her, and her thoughts drift back to the days they spent together. She remembers the way Odysseus had smiled at her, the way he had laughed softly at her attempts to cheer him up, and the way he had looked at her with that quiet sadness in his eyes, knowing that he would eventually have to leave. Calypso's immortality means that she will live on, unchanged by the passage of time. But in this moment, she feels the weight of that eternity. What is immortality without love? What is the point of living forever if the one person who brought light to her existence is now gone? She understands the gods' decree, but she cannot help but wonder what her own fate will be now. She has given all she could give, and yet the gods have seen fit to separate her from the one being who meant more to her than anything else. And so, she is left with nothing but the passing days, the same days that she has lived for centuries. But now they seem endless, a reminder of all that she has lost. The winds of Ogygia, once her companions, now feel like a distant whisper. The waves no longer bring the promise of new beginnings, but only the quiet reminder of her solitude. She knows that, like the sea, her heart will eventually calm. Time will heal her, as it always does. But for now, the ache is raw. The knowledge that Odysseus is somewhere out there, sailing toward his home, fills her with both sorrow and a bittersweet sense of peace. She loves him, but she knows that he must go. It is the way of the world. Love is not always a bond that lasts forever. Sometimes it is simply a beautiful, fleeting moment. Yet, even in her sadness, Calypso knows that she cannot remain in this state forever. She has lived through loss before, and she will live through it again. Her heart will heal, as it always does, but the love she has for Odysseus will never fade. It will remain with her, like the sea that stretches beyond the horizon, a constant presence in the depths of her immortal soul. She will carry him with her, as she carries the memory of all those she has loved and lost over the centuries. And in the quiet moments, when the winds are still and the waves are calm, she will remember him, not as the man who left her, but as the man who brought light into her lonely world, if only for a brief time. Calypso rises from her place in the cave and steps outside, looking out over the sea once more. The sun has set, and the stars are beginning to shine in the darkening sky. She watches them for a moment, lost in thought, before she turns away and walks back into the heart of the island. The waves continue to crash softly against the shore, and the winds stir the trees. But for now, she walks alone. She knows that her journey is far from over, and that, in time, she will find peace once again. But tonight, she allows herself to feel the loss, to feel the weight of the love she gave so freely, and the sorrow that now fills the empty space where Odysseus once stood. The days that follow Odysseus's departure blend into one another, the passage of time seeming to slow, yet never stopping. For Calypso, the immortal nymph who once revelled in her solitude, the world has shifted in a way she cannot quite grasp. She is still the same, eternal, ageless, untouched by the ravages of time, but everything around her feels different. Ogygia remains as beautiful and untouched as ever, its lush forests and gentle shores continuing to flow with the same rhythms as they always have. But for Calypso, the island no longer feels like a sanctuary, nor does it offer the same peace it once did. The weight of her love and the loss that followed it lingers in her heart, even as the natural world around her carries on as it always has. In her solitude, Calypso begins to reflect on what it means to be immortal. She has lived for centuries, watching as mortals are born, grow, age, and die, while she remains unchanged. For her, time has no true meaning. She has seen kingdoms rise and fall, gods and heroes come and go, and yet she has remained the same, her existence untouched by the fleeting nature of the world around her. The passage of time, to Calypso, is a strange thing, something she feels in her heart but cannot fully grasp. She has lived for so long, and yet, in the grand scheme of things, she knows little about what the future holds. She is a being outside of time, existing in a world that is ever-changing, but in a way that does not affect her. Her love for Odysseus was a moment in the grand timeline of her eternal existence. A brief, brilliant flame that burned brightly, but was destined to fade. The pain of his departure, though sharp and raw, will eventually soften with time, as it always does. She understands that. Yet there is a part of her that wonders if this feeling of loss, this sense of longing, will ever truly disappear. Immortality, she has come to realize, is not without its burdens. It is a gift that allows her to live forever, but it also means that she is bound to watch the world change around her, to see the fleeting nature of human life, and to feel the sting of love lost without the promise of reunion. As the days pass, Calypso returns to her place within Ogygia, the island that has been her home for so long. She walks through the same lush forests where the trees stand tall and unmoving, their branches reaching for the sky. The soft winds brush against her skin, and the waves continue to crash against the shore. The island remains the same, a timeless paradise untouched by the hand of man. And yet, for Calypso, it now feels like a prison, a place where she is trapped, her heart bound by the love she still carries for Odysseus. Her immortal nature does not allow her to forget. Time cannot heal all wounds for beings like her, whose existence stretches beyond the mortal span. There are no distractions, no events to fill the void left by Odysseus. No gods come to visit her, and no mortal can ever enter her island again. She is left with only her memories and the passage of time, which, despite its vastness, still feels endless. Calypso finds herself in the quiet solitude of her cave, the place where she had once cared for Odysseus. It was here that they had shared their moments of tenderness, here that they had spoken of things both profound and trivial, here that they had laughed together, and here that they had said their final goodbye. Now the cave is empty, and the silence inside is profound. The soft glow of the stones that line the walls no longer feels warm, but cold. The cushions, woven from seaweed, once a symbol of comfort and intimacy, now feel like remnants of a life that no longer exists. She sits in the quiet, her mind turning over the memories of Odysseus, the man who had come into her life like a storm, bringing light and warmth to her lonely existence, only to leave once the winds shifted. She has no choice but to accept that he is gone, that his journey will carry him far away from her, and that her love, though true, will never be enough to change the course of fate. In the silence of the cave, she allows herself to feel the sorrow, to acknowledge the loss. She does not deny it, for it is a part of her now. And yet, deep within her, there is a quiet understanding that she will carry this sorrow with her, just as she will carry the memory of Odysseus. Calypso's immortality is a strange gift. It has allowed her to witness countless lives and to live through eons of change, but it has also left her with the constant awareness of how fleeting each moment is. She understands that she is not immune to the passage of time in the way mortals are. While they age and die, she remains, but she also bears the weight of seeing everything she knows drift away into the past. The gods may give her immortality, but they do not give her the freedom to escape the pain of loss. She has seen it before, and she will see it again. But that does not make it easier. In the quiet of Ogygia, Calypso returns to her role as the guardian of the island, watching over its beauty and ensuring that the natural order remains undisturbed. She controls the winds and the tides, bending them to her will, but her heart is no longer at peace. It is a heart that has known love, a love that was fleeting but real, and now it is a heart that must live with the knowledge that love does not always conquer all. Immortality may be a gift, but it is not without its costs. And for Calypso, the cost is a life that will continue, even as the things she loves slip away. The island, however, remains unchanged, timeless and constant in the face of her own eternal sorrow. As Calypso walks through the evergreen forests of Ogygia, the unchanging landscape seems to offer little solace. The beauty of the island, once a perfect refuge from the world, now feels like a world frozen in time. She has long known the gods' will, the whims and fates they weave for mortals and immortals alike. Calypso is not a goddess like Hera or Athena, commanding armies and influencing the lives of kings. She is a nymph, a lesser being in the vast cosmic hierarchy, yet her role in the mythological world is not insignificant. Though the gods of Olympus often overlook figures like Calypso, distant, remote, and unmoving, they are still bound by the rules of the divine order. Her story, tangled with that of Odysseus, has become one of those stories that reverberate through the annals of time. She is both a participant and a bystander in the greater tale of the Trojan War, the gods, intrigues, and the fates of mortal men. Her encounter with Odysseus, while a moment in her long existence, is a pivotal moment in his life, one that will shape his journey and, in turn, the legend of his return to Ithaca. The gods are aware of Calypso, though they do not often intervene directly in her life. They know her for what she is, a daughter of Atlas, a being connected to the ancient and powerful forces of nature, but one who resides far outside the centers of divine power. She is part of the natural world, a force that governs the tides and the winds, the very essence of the seas. Calypso's influence on the world is subtle, flowing like the current beneath the surface, hidden from the eyes of most, yet undeniable to those who encounter her domain. It is the god's will that shapes Calypso's existence, as it shapes the lives of all immortals. Zeus, in his infinite wisdom, chooses to intervene when Odysseus finds his way to her island. But his intervention is not one of cruelty. It is a reminder of the order that governs the cosmos. Even Calypso, powerful as she is in her seclusion, cannot escape the plans of the gods. They are not malicious in their decree that Odysseus must leave her, but they know that his destiny lies beyond the shores of Ogygia. The mortal world awaits him, and it is time for him to fulfill the promises that bind him to his family. For Calypso, however, the gods' interference is not a simple matter. She knows the gods' will, and she knows her place within the divine scheme. She is a servant of nature, a being born from the union of the primordial elements. But she is also a creature who yearns for something more. The gods, immortal and vast, are beyond her comprehension in their complexity and power. They shape the destinies of mortals and immortals alike, their actions often invisible, yet inevitable. Calypso's connection to them is indirect, her influence over her island a mere whisper in the grand scheme of things. Her connection to the gods is also marked by their fleeting visits to her domain. They come rarely, often in the form of distant messengers like Hermes, delivering their decrees and commands. She is a daughter of Atlas, and in her own way, she has a power over the natural forces, the elements, and the creatures that inhabit her island. But even that power is tempered by the will of the gods. Her fate, and the fates of those who come to her shores, is shaped by forces far greater than her own. She can guide the winds and control the tides, but she cannot control the destiny that has been woven for Odysseus, or for herself. In the quiet of her solitude, Calypso often reflects on her place in the greater tapestry of myth. The gods may look down upon her island, but they do not intervene often. Her existence, while important, is not the center of divine attention. She is not part of the Olympian drama, where gods battle over mortal souls, or where powerful beings shape the course of nations. She is simply a nymph, a creature born of nature, existing in harmony with the world around her. Her immortality is both a blessing and a curse, for it separates her from the fleeting lives of mortals, leaving her to witness their struggles from a distance. She sees them, loves them, and sometimes helps them, but she can never truly experience their world as they do. Despite this, Calypso's story is one that intertwines with the gods' will. She is the keeper of Ogygia, and in that role, she has seen the movements of the divine world play out in the lives of mortals who have stumbled upon her shores. Her encounter with Odysseus was not the first time she has encountered a mortal, nor will it be the last. But it is a story that will endure in the annals of myth, for it is one of love, loss, and sacrifice. A story that is both a personal tragedy for Calypso and a defining moment in the journey of the mortal man she loves. Calypso's place in the gods' grand scheme is clear. She is a figure of transition, a momentary pause in the flow of a mortal's life. In her presence, Odysseus finds rest, healing, and the briefest of reprieves from his tumultuous journey. But his journey is not hers to control, and the gods' will always be the force that shapes the fate of mortals. Calypso is a guardian of nature, a keeper of the timeless island, but she cannot change the course of destiny. As the days pass, Calypso continues her quiet existence, the memory of Odysseus remaining etched in her heart. She knows that she is but a fleeting presence in the lives of mortals, a temporary figure in the stories that unfold. Her role is important, but it is small in the grand design of the gods. She is part of the endless flow of time, a being who watches the world move forward while remaining unchanged. And in this quiet acceptance, she finds peace, even as she carries the memory of the man who once walked her shores, leaving her heart both full and empty. As the centuries pass, the myth of Calypso, like many ancient stories, evolves. In the original tale, she is a figure of beauty, power, and profound sadness, a nymph who loves a mortal and is ultimately forced to let him go. But as time moves on, her story becomes more layered, and she takes on different meanings and roles in the minds of those who retell her story. The woman who once appeared as a healer and lover becomes, in some interpretations, a symbol of both temptation and sacrifice, an immortal figure whose love defies the natural order of life and death. In later traditions, Calypso is sometimes depicted as more than just a passive figure caught in the web of divine fate. While her initial portrayal is one of tenderness and care for Odysseus, some versions of her myth suggest a deeper, more complex character, one whose actions are not merely those of a heartbroken lover, but of a woman who is bound by her own desires and struggles against the constraints of her immortal life. She is often portrayed as a temptress, a seductress whose love for Odysseus is seen as both an offering and a trap. In these retellings, she is not merely the compassionate healer who saves Odysseus. She becomes the one who keeps him captive, offering him everything except the freedom to choose his own path. Yet, even in these later interpretations, Calypso's love remains genuine. Her desires, though complicated and at times contradictory, are not born of malice. She offers Odysseus not just love, but the chance to escape the hardships of the mortal world. Her island, Ogygia, is a paradise, untouched by war or suffering, a place where time slows and peace reigns. But it is also a place of isolation, where even the most beautiful sanctuary can feel like a prison. In this way, Calypso's love is tragic, for it is both a gift and a burden. She offers Odysseus immortality, not out of selfishness, but because she wants him to live in peace with her forever. She wants him to escape the world of conflict and loss that has marked his journey. But she cannot give him the one thing he truly desires: freedom. In some later renditions of her story, Calypso becomes a symbol of the conflict between the desires of the heart and the demands of the world. She represents the tension between the natural world and the constructed world of mortals and gods, the clash between a love that transcends time and the realities of fate that ultimately separate lovers. In this way, Calypso embodies the bittersweet nature of life itself, where even the most enduring love must eventually come to an end, and where sacrifice becomes the price of freedom. Yet, it is not just her role as a lover and temptress that evolves in later myths. Calypso's myth also explores themes of power and autonomy. Though she is not a goddess in the traditional sense, she is a figure of immense power. She controls the winds, the tides, and the very course of nature on her island. She is an immortal being who lives in harmony with the earth and the sea. Her connection to nature is not just physical, but spiritual. She is a guardian of Ogygia, a protector of her realm, and in this sense, she is a force unto herself. But her power, it seems, is limited. She cannot change the course of fate, nor can she bind Odysseus to her forever, no matter how much she loves him. Her power, in the end, is only a reminder of the powerlessness that immortality sometimes brings. The myth of Calypso also takes on new meaning as it is retold throughout history. In medieval and Renaissance interpretations, she is often depicted as a figure of temptation and mystique. Her name becomes synonymous with enchantment, and her island is seen as a place where the boundaries between the mortal and divine worlds blur. This view of Calypso as a figure who lures Odysseus into a false paradise shifts the focus of her myth from one of love to one of entrapment. She becomes a symbol of the danger of indulgence and the consequences of surrendering to the pleasures of the world without concern for the greater responsibilities that await. Yet, even in these more negative depictions, there is an undercurrent of tragedy in Calypso's story. She is not evil, nor is she a villain in the traditional sense. She is a woman who loves, who desires, and who is caught in the tides of fate. Her love for Odysseus is not driven by malicious intent, but by an overwhelming need to find connection, to overcome the solitude that has defined her existence. In the end, Calypso's story is not one of villainy, but one of sacrifice, where her love for Odysseus is tested by the reality of the world around her. In modern retellings of her myth, Calypso is often portrayed as a tragic, misunderstood figure, one who, despite her immortality, is forced to endure the pain of separation from the man she loves. She becomes a figure that represents the complexities of love, freedom, and the passage of time. She is a woman whose heart, though eternal, is filled with longing, and whose love, though pure, is bound by the constraints of both divine law and mortal desire. Her myth also resonates with modern themes of loneliness and isolation, offering a poignant reflection on the human condition. For Calypso, immortality is not just a blessing, it is a curse. She is forever separated from the world of mortals, unable to truly experience the depth of human relationships or the joys of life that come with its fleeting nature. She is a being out of sync with the flow of time, her existence marked by an endless cycle of waiting and longing. And yet, it is in this very isolation that she finds a sense of peace. She has loved and she has let go. She has given and she has sacrificed. In this sense, Calypso's story is not just one of love lost, but of love that transcends the boundaries of time and mortality, a love that endures even as the world moves on without her. The myth of Calypso, though it takes place in the distant realm of ancient Greece, speaks to timeless themes that resonate deeply with the human condition. Her story is not just a tale of love, loss, and separation, but a metaphor for the choices that all beings, mortal and immortal alike, must face in life. Through Calypso, we see a reflection of the eternal struggle between longing and freedom, between the desire to possess and the necessity to let go. At the heart of Calypso's myth lies the tension between love and freedom. She offers Odysseus immortality, a gift that promises eternal life in her company, away from the troubles and strife of the mortal world. But in doing so, she also offers him something more, something that might not be as readily apparent, the chance to escape the burdens of mortality. To live forever with her would mean abandoning the journey that is at the core of his human experience, the journey of suffering, learning, and growth. For Odysseus, returning to Ithaca is not merely a matter of homecoming, but a symbolic step in embracing the full spectrum of life, the joys, the pain, the challenges, and the triumphs. Calypso's offer of immortality, though alluring, is a reflection of the temptation to escape the hardships of life. How many mortals, faced with the promise of eternal peace, would choose to remain in a beautiful paradise, free from the tribulations of time and change? Her island, Ogygia, represents a place of unchanging beauty, a place where the tide of time seems to stand still, where the earth and the sea remain ever calm. For Calypso, Ogygia is not just an island. It is a metaphor for the stillness that can come with love that seeks to possess rather than release. Yet Calypso's love, though profound and genuine, is also a reflection of the limitations that love can sometimes impose. Her desire to keep Odysseus, to make him her eternal companion, is an act of profound selflessness. But it is also one that denies him the freedom to return to his own path, to fulfill the destiny that calls him back to Ithaca. In this way, Calypso's love represents a paradox. While she wishes to provide Odysseus with everything he could ever need, she cannot offer him the one thing he truly seeks: freedom. Her love, no matter how pure, cannot replace the need for Odysseus to return home, to honor his vows, and to be reunited with the ones he loves. The tension between love and freedom is not just a theme in Calypso's story. It is a universal struggle. All love, whether divine or mortal, carries with it the risk of attachment, the desire to hold on to something, to make it our own, to keep it close. But true love, in its most selfless form, requires release. It asks us to love without expectation, to desire without attachment, and to let go when necessary. In Calypso's story, her inability to fully release Odysseus reflects the painful truth that love, no matter how deep, must sometimes allow the beloved to go their own way, to follow the path that is meant for them. Calypso's role in the myth is also a reminder of the complexity of immortality. While she is untouched by the ravages of time, she is not exempt from the emotional toll of loneliness, loss, and longing. Her immortality is not a life free of pain, but one in which she is forced to live with the memory of those she has loved and lost. Her love for Odysseus, though eternal in nature, is a reminder that even those who are beyond the reach of time must still confront the emotions and desires that come with the passage of life. Calypso's life, though immortal, is marked by an unchanging solitude, a solitude that is as much a part of her being as her connection to the forces of nature. Her story, then, is not just a tale of a failed romance, but a meditation on the nature of time, love, and loss. It speaks to the bittersweet reality that immortality, for all its promises, can never replace the fleeting beauty of life. Mortals may live for only a short while, but it is in those brief moments that they experience the fullness of emotion, the joy of love, the pain of separation, the sweetness of reunion, and the ache of loss. Immortality, as represented by Calypso, is a life that is unchanging and unyielding, a life that does not allow for the natural flow of emotions, nor the growth that comes from living through hardship. In the context of Greek mythology, where gods and mortals alike are often defined by their relationships to time and fate, Calypso's role is a reminder that even those who seem to be exempt from the burdens of mortality are not free from the emotional struggles that come with love and loss. Her story echoes the truth that time is not just a force that shapes the world around us, but also a force that shapes the hearts and minds of all beings. The gods may live forever, but they too are bound by the emotional tides of love, desire, and separation. For Odysseus, his time with Calypso is a moment of respite, a chance to heal from the wounds of his journey. But for Calypso, their brief time together is a reminder of the fragility of love and the inevitability of parting. She cannot hold him forever, for his destiny is elsewhere, and it is through his departure that Calypso learns the painful lesson that love must sometimes let go, even when it aches to do so. Ultimately, Calypso's story is a meditation on the fleeting nature of life and the complex layers of love. It reminds us that love, in its truest form, is not about possession, but about allowing the beloved to live their own life, to fulfill their own destiny. Calypso's love for Odysseus, though sincere and eternal, is also a love that understands the necessity of release. She gives him freedom, not just because she must, but because she understands that true love is about allowing the other to be free, even when it breaks your heart. Though Calypso's story is often overshadowed by the more well-known tales of the Olympian gods and mortal heroes, her myth endures through the ages as a testament to the complexity of love, loss, and the human condition. While Odysseus's journey is central to her role in Greek mythology, her legacy extends beyond her fleeting encounter with the hero. The tale of Calypso speaks to the themes of solitude, desire, and the inevitability of fate, all of which resonate throughout the mythological world. Her legacy is defined by the deep love she offered Odysseus, a love that was unreciprocated in the way she hoped, but is nonetheless immortalized in the mythos. She's a figure who embodies the sacrifices that love demands, as well as the sadness that comes with unfulfilled desire. The emotions she experiences, both the joy of loving and the sorrow of letting go, are not limited to the myth of Odysseus. They are universal feelings, shared by many throughout history and across cultures. Her story resonates as a reminder that love, even when pure and selfless, does not always lead to the happiness or union we desire. It is a testament to the bittersweet nature of life, where even the most powerful emotions cannot change the course of destiny. Calypso's role in Greek mythology is also that of a boundary figure, one who exists between the mortal and divine worlds. As a nymph, she is neither fully mortal nor fully divine, but rather an intermediary, one who is not part of the grand pantheon of Olympian gods, but still wields considerable power over the forces of nature. Her domain, Ogygia, exists outside the reach of the mortal world, a hidden island where time flows differently and the rules of the world do not fully apply. In this way, Calypso is a guardian of the threshold, a figure who stands between two worlds, the immortal and the mortal, the eternal and the transient. She represents a space of liminality where the boundaries between life and death, freedom and captivity, love and loss are blurred. This ambiguity makes Calypso an enduring and fascinating figure in mythology. She is not a simple villain or a hero, nor is she a mere side character in the story of Odysseus. Her myth speaks to the complexities of relationships, the contradictions within love, and the often painful truth that time and fate cannot be defied. Though she is sometimes seen as a seductress or a keeper of Odysseus, her actions are not driven by malice or selfishness. Rather, she is a being caught between her desires and the realization that true love requires sacrifice and freedom. As the centuries passed, Calypso's role in mythological retellings took on new dimensions. In some versions, her character was softened, portraying her as a more tragic figure, a woman whose love for Odysseus, though intense, was ultimately noble in its selflessness. She becomes a symbol of the power of love that seeks not to possess, but to free. In other versions, particularly during the Renaissance, and later, her myth was viewed through a lens of temptation and entrapment, with her offering immortality to Odysseus seen as a metaphor for the dangers of indulgence and excess. Regardless of the interpretation, Calypso remains an enduring symbol of the complexities of love and the consequences of desire. Calypso's legacy is also tied to her role as a caretaker and healer. When Odysseus first arrives on Ogygia, battered and broken, it is Calypso who nurses him back to health, both physically and emotionally. Her care for him is not just that of a nymph tending to a mortal, but that of a woman who sees in him a kindred spirit, someone who has suffered as she has. Her willingness to heal him, to shelter him from the storms of life, reflects her deep compassion and understanding. Even as she offers him immortality, Calypso's actions reveal her true nature. She is not a figure who seeks to trap Odysseus, but a being who longs for connection, for companionship, and for love. In this sense, she becomes a symbol of selfless love, one that does not ask for anything in return, but simply wishes to offer solace to another soul. In the end, Calypso's legacy is one of quiet resilience. She watches as Odysseus sails away, knowing that the love she has offered him is not the love that will ultimately define his journey. But she accepts this with grace, for she understands that love is not always about holding on, but about letting go. Her willingness to set him free, even when it breaks her heart, speaks to the depth of her character. It is through this act of love that she becomes immortalized, not just as a nymph who loved a hero, but as a figure who embodied the themes of sacrifice, freedom, and the impermanence of life. Though Calypso's role in the story of Odysseus is limited, her legacy persists through the ages, and her myth endures as a powerful meditation on the complexities of the heart. She remains a figure who represents both the pain of love and the wisdom that comes with letting go. Her legacy is not one of tragic defeat, but of quiet strength, a reminder that the greatest acts of love are often those that allow the beloved to go, to find their own path, and to fulfill their own destiny. In the end, Calypso's story is not just about the love she gave, but about the love she allowed to be free. The myth of Calypso, while often overshadowed by the grand narratives of the Olympian gods and the legendary heroes, carries with it deep philosophical implications, particularly surrounding the themes of love and freedom. These elements are at the heart of her story, and they resonate far beyond the boundaries of her island, touching on fundamental truths about the human experience. Calypso's love for Odysseus is intense and genuine, yet it is also a love that exists in tension with the concept of freedom. The love she offers him is not just that of a lover desiring companionship, but also one of deep empathy. Calypso sees in Odysseus a kindred spirit, a soul that has experienced suffering, loss, and longing, much like her own. She offers him solace, a safe haven away from the chaos and violence of the mortal world. Her love is a form of sanctuary where time slows and peace reigns. In this sense, Calypso becomes a representation of love that seeks to protect, heal, and preserve. She wants nothing more than to provide Odysseus with the peace he so desperately needs. However, this offering of love is not without its complexities. It is not simply enough to love and care for Odysseus. She wants him to stay. The gift of immortality offered to Odysseus is her way of binding him to her, of ensuring that he will never leave the island, that they will never be separated. It is a love that seeks to possess, to make eternal what is fleeting. The fact that she is willing to offer him immortality speaks to the depth of her desire, but it also raises questions about the nature of love itself. Can love be truly selfless if it seeks to hold on to the beloved, to keep them close, to prevent them from fulfilling their own destiny? This tension between love and freedom is a central theme in Calypso's myth. She loves Odysseus deeply, but she cannot give him the one thing he truly desires: the freedom to return home to Ithaca, to be with his wife and son, to fulfill his destiny as a king and father. Her love, however pure, comes at the cost of Odysseus's freedom. She holds him in her embrace, offering him peace and sanctuary, but it is a peace that comes with a price, the price of his freedom to choose his path, to return to his family, and to complete his journey. In this way, Calypso's love is both a blessing and a burden. For Odysseus, the choice between staying with Calypso and returning to Ithaca is not an easy one. On the one hand, he longs for the comfort and peace she offers. He is weary from his long and arduous journey, and the thought of living forever in Ogygia, free from the conflicts of the mortal world, is tempting. But on the other hand, Odysseus understands that his true home lies in Ithaca, with his wife Penelope and his son Telemachus. His love for them is a love rooted in duty and loyalty, and it is this love that ultimately compels him to reject Calypso's offer of immortality. The choice he faces is a painful one, for it requires him to leave behind the love and comfort that Calypso offers, in exchange for the uncertainty and hardship of returning to the mortal world. In this context, Calypso's myth reflects the universal tension between the desire for security and the call of duty. Odysseus's decision to leave Calypso is not simply about his love for Penelope, but also about the need to fulfill his role as a husband, father, and king. Love, in its truest sense, requires sacrifice, and Odysseus must sacrifice his chance at peace and immortality to fulfill his responsibilities. Calypso's love for Odysseus, while selfless, also highlights the complexity of love itself. Love is not always about keeping someone close, but sometimes about letting them go so they can fulfill their own purpose, their own destiny. The theme of freedom also extends to Calypso herself. While she is an immortal being bound to her island, she is not truly free in the way that Odysseus is. She lives in a timeless space, a place where the natural world is her domain, but she is also trapped by her love for Odysseus and the realization that she cannot hold him forever. Though she has power over the elements, she cannot control the forces of fate or the will of the gods. Her immortality, rather than being a gift of ultimate freedom, becomes a form of isolation. She lives in a state of perpetual waiting, bound by the passage of time, but unable to fully experience the freedom that comes with the lives of mortals. In this way, Calypso's myth underscores the complexity of immortality, not as a state of eternal joy or freedom, but as a condition that is fraught with its own struggles and limitations. Her ultimate act of love, releasing Odysseus, is a reflection of her understanding of the true nature of freedom. She knows that love cannot be confined, that it must be allowed to flow freely, even if it means letting go. In this way, Calypso's journey becomes a metaphor for the sacrifices that come with love. The willingness to release what you hold dear, to allow it to grow and change, even if it breaks your heart. Her act of freeing Odysseus is both a personal tragedy and an act of profound love. It is through this release that she ultimately finds her own form of freedom, a freedom that comes not from possessing, but from allowing the beloved to follow their own path. Calypso's myth, then, is a meditation on the nature of love and freedom, and the delicate balance between the two. Her love for Odysseus is selfless, but it is also bound by the constraints of her immortal existence. Her freedom is limited by her role as a caretaker and guardian of her island, just as Odysseus's freedom is limited by his duty to his family and homeland. In the end, both Calypso and Odysseus are forced to reconcile their desires with the realities of their respective destinies. Their love is a love that transcends time, but it is also a love that requires sacrifice and release. As the myth of Calypso comes to its close, we are left with a poignant reflection on the nature of love, loss, and the passage of time. Calypso's story is one that unfolds in a world of divine power and mortal struggle, where the threads of fate are woven by forces beyond her control. Yet, through her quiet strength and selfless love, she becomes a symbol of the universal experiences that all beings, mortal and immortal, must face. The yearning for connection, the pain of separation, and the profound wisdom that comes with releasing what we hold most dear. Though Calypso's name is not as widely known as those of the Olympian gods or other heroes, her legacy endures as a reminder of the complexities of love. Unlike the love of gods, which can often seem distant and detached, or the love of mortals, which is fleeting and often consumed by the trials of life, Calypso's love represents a pure, eternal affection that transcends time. She is not just a nymph or a lover, but a being whose heart has known both the ecstasy of love and the heartbreak of letting go. Her journey is not one of grand battles or epic quests, but of emotional depth and quiet sacrifice. In offering Odysseus immortality, Calypso demonstrates the power of love to give without asking for anything in return. Yet, she also learns that love, in its truest form, requires freedom. Her willingness to release Odysseus, even when it causes her immense pain, is an act of profound love and wisdom. It is through this act of sacrifice that Calypso learns the true meaning of freedom. Freedom not to possess, but to let go. As an immortal, Calypso is caught in the cycle of eternity, watching as the world around her changes, but never truly aging or evolving herself. Her immortality is both a blessing and a curse, offering her eternal life while also binding her to a world of isolation and longing. She lives in a timeless space, removed from the mortal struggles and joys that shape the lives of those like Odysseus. And yet, in her love for him, Calypso finds a glimpse of what it means to live, truly live, beyond the confines of her immortal existence. Her story reflects a deeper truth about the nature of time itself. Though she is untouched by the passage of years, she is not exempt from the emotional toll that time takes on the heart. The gods, in their eternal wisdom, are not immune to love's pain, nor are they beyond the reach of loss. Calypso's myth reminds us that, even in the face of eternity, love can never be fully possessed or contained. It is a force that moves freely, binding and releasing, holding and letting go. Calypso's love for Odysseus is a reflection of this truth, a love that, though it may last forever, must also be allowed to pass. In her final act of releasing Odysseus, Calypso finds peace. She understands that love, in its purest form, is not about keeping someone close, but about allowing them to follow their own path. Her ability to let him go, to grant him the freedom he desires, is a reflection of her own growth as a character. She is not a mere vessel for Odysseus's journey, but a being with her own desires, her own capacity for love and sacrifice. In her story, we see the complexities of the heart laid bare, the longing for companionship, the pain of separation, and the wisdom that comes with accepting the impermanence of all things. While Calypso's myth may not be as celebrated as that of other figures in Greek mythology, it holds within it a timeless message. Her journey teaches us that love, though powerful, must always be tempered by freedom and sacrifice. It shows us that immortality, for all its promises, is not without its own burdens. Calypso's story is one of quiet heroism, not defined by the battles she fights or the kingdoms she rules, but by the emotional strength she displays in letting go of the one she loves. In this sense, her myth is a meditation on the fragility and the strength of the human heart. Through Calypso, we see that love is not always about holding on, but about knowing when to release. Her story teaches us that even in the face of immense desire, there is wisdom in allowing the beloved to be free. It is this wisdom that defines her legacy, not as a seductress, but as a symbol of the complexities of love and the eternal dance between attachment and freedom. Her love for Odysseus, though unfulfilled, remains a powerful reminder of the sacrifices that love demands, and the quiet strength that comes from choosing to let go. As the myth of Calypso concludes, her story endures as a reflection of the universal truths that transcend time. It is a tale that speaks to the heart of what it means to love, to lose, and to find peace in the release of what we hold most dear. In this, Calypso's legacy lives on, not in the grandeur of the gods or the feats of heroes, but in the quiet moments of love, sacrifice, and understanding that shape the lives of all who walk the earth. In the modern world, the myth of Calypso has found new relevance, evolving beyond its ancient origins to speak to contemporary themes of love, freedom, and the human experience. Though Calypso's tale is deeply embedded in the traditions of Greek mythology, her character resonates in ways that transcend the boundaries of time and culture. Her story, like many ancient myths, continues to inspire countless interpretations as her struggles with love, loss, and identity remain as relevant today as they were in the ancient world. One of the most enduring aspects of Calypso's myth is its exploration of love, specifically the kind of love that seeks to possess rather than release. Calypso's love for Odysseus is powerful, unyielding, and deeply selfless. She offers him everything she has: immortality, sanctuary, peace. And yet, the love she gives, while sincere, cannot overcome the fundamental need for freedom that Odysseus carries within him. This dynamic, the tension between love and freedom, continues to resonate with modern audiences. The notion of holding on to something or someone out of love, only to realize that true love requires letting go, is a theme that is universal, appearing in countless forms across literature, film, and personal experience. In a world where the pressures of attachment, possession, and security often dominate human relationships, Calypso's myth challenges the very nature of these desires. Calypso's love is the kind that seeks to nurture, to heal, and to give everything, but it also highlights the danger of suffocation. In modern times, this can be seen in relationships where love becomes a means of control, or where one partner's need for security overrides the other's need for independence. Calypso's offer of immortality is a perfect metaphor for these kinds of relationships, an attempt to keep someone close at the expense of their autonomy. It is not enough to love someone, but to allow them the space to be free, to live their own life, make their own choices, and pursue their own destiny. On a broader scale, Calypso's myth is also a meditation on the tension between comfort and responsibility. In today's world, many individuals face the same choices that Odysseus faces: the decision to remain in a situation that offers peace and security, but which also requires them to give up something deeper, something that makes them truly themselves. Calypso's island, Ogygia, represents the comforts of a life without struggle, a place of eternal rest where all desires can be fulfilled. But this peace comes at a price. Odysseus would have to sacrifice his journey, his purpose, and ultimately his connection to his past and future. This tension between the easy path and the difficult one is one that many people confront when they must choose between the comfort of the familiar and the uncertainties of the unknown. The contemporary interpretation of Calypso's story also raises questions about immortality itself. In the myth, immortality is a double-edged sword. Calypso's eternal life is not one of happiness and freedom, but one of isolation and longing. She is condemned to live forever, but without the ability to grow or change. This aspect of the myth speaks to modern anxieties about the consequences of eternal life or the desire for things to stay the same. In a culture that often prizes eternal youth, beauty, and wealth, Calypso's story reminds us that the desire for immortality can sometimes be a curse rather than a blessing. To live forever, unchanging and detached from the natural rhythms of life, is not a life lived fully, but one that is stuck in a state of perpetual stasis. Calypso's immortality is not one of fulfillment, but of solitude and longing, revealing that what is often desired, eternity, may in fact be a heavy burden. Moreover, the myth of Calypso can be seen as a critique of the gods themselves, specifically their interference in the lives of mortals. The gods, in their omnipotence, dictate the fates of mortals and immortals alike. Calypso, despite her powers over the forces of nature, cannot change the will of Zeus, who demands that Odysseus return to Ithaca. This speaks to the way in which individuals today often feel bound by forces beyond their control, societal expectations, familial pressures, and external circumstances that dictate the course of their lives. Calypso, with all her love and wisdom, cannot change Odysseus's fate, just as individuals today may struggle against forces outside of their control. It is only by letting go of what they cannot change that they can find peace. Calypso's myth also underscores the complexities of emotional growth and acceptance. In a sense, her final act of letting go of Odysseus represents emotional maturity and self-awareness. She recognizes that holding on to him would only serve to keep both of them trapped. Odysseus in a paradise he does not belong to, and herself in a life of eternal solitude. Calypso's ability to relinquish him, to allow him to continue his journey, speaks to the difficult process of accepting that some things, no matter how much we love them, are not meant to be kept. This acceptance of impermanence is a lesson that, in many ways, modern society struggles to learn. The myth invites us to reflect on the idea that true love is not about possession, but about allowing the other to be free, to grow, and to find their own path. In literary and artistic works, Calypso's influence can still be felt. Writers and artists often revisit her story, reinterpreting her character and adding layers to her mythos. She is often depicted as both a tragic figure and a symbol of the mysterious allure of the unknown. As the world continues to grapple with themes of identity, love, and freedom, Calypso's story endures as a timeless reflection on the complexities of the heart and the consequences of desire. Calypso's myth, though often viewed through the lens of her interaction with Odysseus, holds within it rich layers of symbolism that extend far beyond her role as a lover or a nymph. Through Calypso, we encounter a figure who represents both the beauty and the dangers of the natural world, the complexities of love, and the burdens of immortality. Her story offers a profound exploration of human desires, emotions, and the limits of freedom, making her one of the more nuanced and deeply symbolic characters in Greek mythology. At the heart of Calypso's symbolism is her connection to nature. As a daughter of the Titan Atlas, she is inherently linked to the forces of the earth, the seas, and the heavens. Ogygia, the island that she rules, is a place of untouched beauty, where the natural world remains in perfect harmony. Calypso herself is often depicted as an embodiment of this connection. Her power over the winds, the tides, and the lush landscapes of her island reflects her deep affinity with the elements. In this way, she symbolizes the forces of nature that are both life-giving and, at times, destructive. Nature, in the myth of Calypso, is not a passive backdrop, but an active, potent force that shapes the lives of those who encounter it. Ogygia is an island of serenity, a sanctuary removed from the struggles of the outside world. Yet, it is also a place of isolation and confinement, a paradise that traps Odysseus within its borders. Calypso herself is a reflection of this duality. She offers peace and beauty, but she also holds Odysseus captive in a way that mirrors the entrapments of the natural world. Just as nature can nurture life, it can also restrict it, holding beings in its embrace while offering no escape. In this sense, Calypso's myth becomes a metaphor for the forces of nature that are both protective and imprisoning, and the tension between freedom and security that lies at the heart of human existence. Calypso's connection to the natural world also speaks to the cyclical nature of life and death. As an immortal being, she is untouched by time, existing outside the mortal constraints of birth and decay. However, in her isolation, she is also removed from the natural cycle of change. The immortality she possesses is not one of growth or transformation, but one of stasis. She is forever caught in the same eternal moment. This quality of eternal repetition, the inability to move forward or evolve, is both a gift and a curse. It is a representation of how, in seeking permanence or security, one may be trapped in a never-ending loop. The paradox of Calypso's immortality is that while she is free from death, she is bound by a kind of emotional stagnation, unable to experience the full range of human existence, growth, loss, renewal. In contrast to Calypso's eternal stasis, Odysseus's mortal journey represents the opposite. He is constantly moving forward, experiencing the highs and lows of life as he battles through the trials of his long voyage. His desire to return home to Ithaca is driven by the need to fulfill his role as a husband, father, and king. His purpose in life is tied to the dynamic forces of time. The difference between Odysseus and Calypso lies in their relationships with time itself. Odysseus, with his mortality, is inextricably linked to the passage of time, moving through it, changing with it, while Calypso is an entity outside of it. This dynamic reinforces the theme of Calypso as both a symbol of the constraints that come with immortality and a reminder that true fulfillment in life often comes from embracing change, even in the face of hardship. Calypso's love for Odysseus, then, becomes a symbol of both attachment and release. She offers him everything: immortality, peace, sanctuary, because she is deeply attached to him. Yet, the moment of her release, the moment she allows him to leave, is a powerful symbol of the ability to love without possessing. In her final act of letting Odysseus go, she demonstrates the selflessness that true love requires. Her love does not seek to bind him, but to allow him to fulfill his own destiny. This reflects a deep philosophical truth within Greek mythology, that love, in its purest form, requires freedom. Just as Odysseus must leave to fulfill his destiny, so too must Calypso release him in order to allow him to grow beyond the confines of her island and his mortal life. The symbolism of Calypso is also tied to the idea of temptation. While she is not a villain, Calypso does represent a force of temptation in Odysseus's journey. The island she inhabits offers everything Odysseus might want: peace, beauty, and eternal life. And yet, it is a peace that comes with the price of stagnation, a beauty that traps him rather than frees him. Calypso tempts Odysseus to remain with her, but in doing so, she offers him a life that is ultimately unfulfilling. The temptation here is not simply the lure of physical pleasure or immortality, but the lure of escaping the responsibilities of life. Calypso's love, though genuine, is ultimately an obstacle to Odysseus's growth, and the myth suggests that true fulfillment comes not from avoiding hardship, but from confronting it head-on. The myth, then, becomes a meditation on the nature of temptation. It is not just the seductive allure of an easy life, but the desire to escape the trials that are inherent in living fully. Finally, Calypso represents a complex reflection of the divine world. While she is not one of the Olympian gods, her influence is nonetheless potent. She is a figure who exists in the realm between mortals and gods, not entirely in control of her fate, yet still able to shape the lives of those who come into her domain. Her power is both a gift and a curse. She can offer refuge, but she cannot escape the larger forces that govern the universe. Her myth underscores the powerlessness of even the most powerful beings in the face of fate and divine will. Even as she offers Odysseus immortality and peace, the will of the gods prevails, and she must let him go. Calypso's myth stands apart in the context of Greek mythology because she does not fit neatly into the roles typically assigned to characters in these stories. She is not a villain like Circe, who enchants Odysseus's men into swine, nor is she a benevolent goddess like Athena, who aids Odysseus on his journey home. Calypso is neither fully good nor entirely bad. Rather, her story challenges our conventional ideas of heroism and villainy. One of the central aspects of Calypso's myth is the inherent complexity of her character. She offers Odysseus a form of sanctuary, free from the dangers of war, the trials of the gods, and the hardships of life. On her island, Ogygia, he is healed from the physical and emotional wounds of his long journey. She gives him everything she has: peace, immortality, and her love. In this sense, she plays the role of a healer, a caretaker, and an ally to Odysseus. And yet, her love for Odysseus is not entirely selfless. Calypso offers him immortality, not simply to protect him, but to bind him to her, to make him her eternal companion. She desires him not just as a man, but as an anchor in her otherwise lonely existence. Calypso's offer of immortality is both an act of love and an attempt to control Odysseus, to hold him in a paradise that she has created. This duality of love and control, of offering and possessing, complicates her character and sets her apart from the more easily categorized figures in Greek mythology. She is not a villain who seeks to harm Odysseus, but she is also not a pure benevolent figure who helps him unconditionally. She is both his lover and his captor, a character who embodies the tension between the desire for love and the fear of losing it. Her story becomes a reflection on the complexity of relationships, especially those that involve power dynamics. Calypso's love for Odysseus is deep and genuine, but it is also possessive. She cannot bear the thought of him leaving, and she offers him everything in her power to keep him with her forever. Her actions are not motivated by malice or wickedness, but by a profound longing for companionship, for connection. Her role as a caretaker is ultimately a way of holding Odysseus in place, preventing him from fulfilling his destiny. While she may not intend to harm him, her desire to keep him confined to her island limits his growth and potential. In this way, Calypso becomes a mirror of the more complex facets of heroism and villainy. Heroes are often defined by their struggle against external forces, against enemies, against fate, or against their own weaknesses. But Calypso's struggle is internal. She is not fighting against gods or monsters. She is fighting against her own desires and her need to control. In a sense, Calypso's villainy, if it can be called that, is not born of external action, but of her own inner conflict. She seeks to preserve a love that, despite her best intentions, cannot be sustained. Her tragedy lies in the fact that she cannot reconcile her love for Odysseus with the need to set him free. It is her inability to let go that ultimately separates her from the typical hero. Her story is not about external conflict, but about the internal battle between love and freedom. This internal struggle, this tension between attachment and release, is one of the central challenges in her myth. And it is one that resonates with anyone who has experienced the bittersweet nature of love. The pain of wanting someone deeply, but knowing that holding on too tightly may drive them away. Calypso's myth challenges the traditional hero's journey, in which heroes often fight enemies or monsters to achieve a goal. In Calypso's case, the true battle is not with the gods or with Odysseus, but within herself. Her greatest enemy is not Zeus or Poseidon, but the force of her own emotions, which ultimately prevent her from allowing Odysseus to move forward. The mythology surrounding Calypso also forces us to question the often simplistic ideas of villainy found in classical literature. In Greek mythology, villains are typically figures who act with cruelty or malice, seeking to harm or deceive others. Yet Calypso is neither cruel nor malicious. Rather, she is a character whose actions, though ultimately limiting to Odysseus, are motivated by a desire for connection and love. This adds a layer of complexity to her role within the myth, making her a tragic figure rather than a purely antagonistic one. While she may not be a villain in the traditional sense, she is nonetheless an obstacle to Odysseus's journey and the fulfillment of his personal destiny. This complexity is what makes Calypso's myth so enduring. She is not defined by her actions alone, but by the emotional depth of her character. Her struggle to balance love and freedom reflects a fundamental truth about the human experience. The desire for connection and the need for independence are often in conflict. Calypso embodies the paradox of love, the desire to hold someone close while also understanding that love, in its purest form, requires setting them free. Her role in Odysseus's story highlights the complexity of relationships, reminding us that true heroism is not always about defeating an enemy or overcoming an obstacle. Sometimes the greatest challenge is confronting the internal struggles that define our desires and actions. In this way, Calypso's myth challenges conventional notions of heroism and villainy, offering a more nuanced perspective on the characters who inhabit Greek mythology. She is not a simple antagonist to Odysseus, nor is she a straightforward hero. She is a figure caught between two worlds, the immortal world of the gods and the mortal world of Odysseus. Her myth shows us that sometimes the greatest battles are not fought in grand epic struggles, but in the quiet moments of emotional conflict, where love and freedom must be reconciled. At the core of Calypso's story lies a profound examination of choice and destiny, two forces that shape not only the lives of mortals like Odysseus, but also the lives of immortals. In Greek mythology, fate and the gods are often depicted as powerful forces that govern the lives of men and women, dictating their paths and decisions. Yet, Calypso's myth offers a unique exploration of how these forces intersect with free will, choice, and the desire to shape one's own destiny. Odysseus's journey, as much as it is guided by the will of the gods, is also deeply personal. His desire to return to Ithaca, to reunite with his wife, Penelope, and his son, Telemachus, is rooted in his identity as a king, a husband, and a father. But when he washes up on the shores of Ogygia, it is Calypso who becomes the unexpected force that tempts him away from his predetermined path. She offers him not only healing and sanctuary, but the promise of immortality, an eternal life with her, free from the struggles of mortality. For Odysseus, it is a choice between two worlds: the promise of peace and comfort with Calypso, and the uncertain but undeniable pull of his responsibilities in Ithaca. Calypso's offer represents a moment of profound personal choice for Odysseus. It is not a decision he takes lightly, for to accept it would mean abandoning the life he has fought for and the loved ones he left behind. Yet, Calypso's proposition forces him to confront a fundamental question. What is the true value of a life free from suffering? Her island offers peace, serenity, and the kind of eternal rest that few mortals ever experience. But this peace comes at a cost, the price of freedom and the fulfillment of one's purpose in life. By staying with Calypso, Odysseus would choose to remain in paradise, but he would also forfeit his right to shape his own fate, to return home and fulfill the commitments that define him. On the other hand, Calypso's own role in the myth speaks to the limitations of choice in the face of destiny. As a nymph with immortal powers, she offers Odysseus the freedom to choose whether to stay with her or return to Ithaca. Yet, despite her selfless love, Calypso is constrained by her own fate. She cannot escape the cycle of her existence, bound to her island, isolated from the mortal world. Even though she holds Odysseus in her care and offers him everything, she is ultimately subject to the will of the gods, specifically Zeus, whose command to release Odysseus forces Calypso to make the ultimate sacrifice. The gods, despite their power, are not free from their own limitations. They shape the destinies of mortals, but they themselves are part of a greater divine order that dictates their actions. Calypso, like many figures in Greek mythology, is caught between two conflicting forces: the love she feels for Odysseus and the divine command that forces her to release him. She cannot change his fate, just as the gods cannot ultimately escape the greater cosmic law that governs the world. Her emotional journey becomes one of learning to accept that, despite her love and desire to keep Odysseus, she must honor the will of the gods and the paths that fate has set for both of them. In Calypso's myth, the tension between choice and destiny is not just about the character's personal desires. It also underscores the nature of free will in the context of a world dominated by powerful, often capricious gods. Calypso's story reveals the delicate balance between individual agency and the larger forces that shape existence. Odysseus is not simply a passive victim of fate. He is an active participant in his journey. Yet, the will of the gods is a constant presence in his story, reminding him that no matter how hard he strives for control over his destiny, he is still subject to the forces that lie beyond his grasp. The myth also explores how individuals respond to their destinies and the role of choice in that process. Odysseus's decision to leave Calypso and return to Ithaca is not simply about fulfilling his obligation to his family. It is also about his internal need to be true to himself and the identity he has crafted throughout his life. By choosing to return to his homeland, Odysseus asserts his agency in the face of overwhelming odds. He chooses his purpose over the comforts of paradise, the fulfillment of his own role over the temptation to remain in an eternal state of peace. In doing so, he embraces the core of the human experience, the need to struggle, to grow, and to ultimately fulfill the duties that define one's existence, even when it is difficult or painful. For Calypso, the acceptance of Odysseus's departure marks a profound moment of growth. She understands, perhaps more clearly than Odysseus himself, that love cannot be confined or forced. True love, she realizes, is about releasing the beloved and allowing them to pursue their own path, even when that path leads them away from her. In this sense, Calypso's myth presents a profound meditation on the nature of selflessness. Her love, while powerful, must be tempered by the understanding that true love requires both sacrifice and release. As the god's will prevails and Odysseus sets sail from Ogygia, we see the consequences of his choice. He leaves behind the peace of the island, the love of Calypso, and the safety of immortality in exchange for the uncertainty and hardship that lie ahead. In doing so, he reaffirms his belief in the importance of individual choice, of embracing the unknown, and of fulfilling his personal destiny. And Calypso, in the end, comes to accept that some fates are beyond her control, even as she mourns the loss of the love she once hoped would be eternal. Calypso's myth, like many in Greek mythology, offers a rich and layered exploration of philosophical themes that resonate with the human experience. At the heart of her story is a struggle that all beings, mortal and immortal alike, must face: the tension between choice, sacrifice, and fate. These themes are not merely plot devices in Calypso's story, but profound questions that shape the very core of the myth. The question of choice is central to both Calypso and Odysseus. From the moment Odysseus is shipwrecked on her island, he is presented with a powerful choice: to remain in Ogygia with Calypso, where peace and comfort await, or to continue his journey back to Ithaca, where he will face the trials of his responsibilities as a king, husband, and father. For Odysseus, this choice is complicated by the love and sanctuary that Calypso offers, and the freedom that Ogygia represents. In his moment of healing, Odysseus is given a reprieve from the world of war, loss, and turmoil. Yet, despite the peace Calypso offers, Odysseus chooses to leave, driven by a sense of duty that transcends personal comfort. This decision is not just about Odysseus's commitment to his family, but about a deeper philosophical question: the choice between living a life of safety and comfort, or embracing the unknown and the responsibilities that define one's purpose. Calypso's island, with its eternal tranquility, is a metaphor for the allure of a life without struggle. It represents the temptation to avoid the pain and hardship of life by seeking refuge in a place of peace and security. Yet, Odysseus's choice to leave is an affirmation of the human need to engage with life fully, to confront challenges and face the uncertainties that come with fulfilling one's destiny. For Calypso, the question of sacrifice is central to her love for Odysseus. In offering him immortality, she is giving him a gift that will forever bind him to her, removing him from the mortal world. But in doing so, she also sacrifices her own emotional fulfillment. Her love for Odysseus, while deep and selfless, demands that she let go of him. Calypso must face the paradox of love. In order to truly love, she must allow Odysseus to choose his own path, even if it means he will leave her behind. The sacrifice Calypso makes is not one of physical danger or hardship, but of the heart, letting go of the one person she has loved, and accepting that love cannot always be possessed. Calypso's sacrifice is a poignant reflection of the broader philosophical idea that true love often requires letting go, allowing the beloved to pursue their own journey, even when it brings pain. This is a lesson in both humility and wisdom. The myth suggests that while love is a powerful force that can shape destinies, it must also recognize the autonomy of the one who is loved. Calypso's willingness to release Odysseus is not an act of defeat, but one of profound emotional strength, a recognition that true love requires the freedom of choice. By allowing Odysseus to return to his fate, she embodies the idea that love is not about control, but about giving the other person the space to grow and evolve. Fate, the third and final theme in Calypso's story, is the ultimate force that shapes her myth. Despite her power as a nymph, Calypso is ultimately unable to alter the course of Odysseus's journey. The gods, and particularly Zeus, decree that Odysseus must return to Ithaca, and this is a fate that Calypso cannot change. She can offer him immortality and peace, but she cannot prevent the gods' will from prevailing. This highlights a key aspect of Greek mythology. Even the most powerful immortals are bound by the forces of fate, and no matter how deeply they may love or desire, they cannot alter the inevitable course of destiny. In Calypso's case, fate serves as both a limitation and a lesson. It is a force that she cannot control, despite her love for Odysseus. It forces her to accept the painful reality that her love, though genuine, is not enough to alter Odysseus's fate. This is a sobering reminder in Greek mythology that fate is often inescapable, and that even the gods and immortals must submit to its demands. For Calypso, the lesson of fate is one of acceptance. She learns that love is not about defying destiny, but about recognizing the limits of control and choosing to release what cannot be kept. The interplay between choice, sacrifice, and fate in Calypso's myth offers a powerful reflection on the nature of human life and relationships. Calypso, as both lover and caretaker, embodies the tension between love's desires and the harsh realities of existence. Her story shows that love, in its purest form, is not about possession, but about allowing the other to live freely, even if it means that love must be let go. Sacrifice, too, is an essential part of this process, for it is through sacrifice that we learn to embrace the true nature of love, selfless, freeing, and full of growth. For Odysseus, his choice to leave Ogygia and return to Ithaca is a reaffirmation of his agency in the face of fate. Though the gods may dictate his journey, it is his decisions that define him. His return to Ithaca is not merely the fulfillment of his destiny, but a demonstration of his ability to shape his own fate, even within the constraints of divine will. In choosing to return to his family, he affirms the importance of his personal journey, the responsibilities that tie him to his past, and the love that binds him to his home. In Calypso's myth, fate, love, and sacrifice are not merely abstract concepts, but living, breathing forces that shape the lives of those caught in their wake. Calypso's struggle to balance her love for Odysseus with the reality of fate offers a poignant reminder that true love requires both freedom and sacrifice. It is a lesson that transcends the mythological realm and speaks directly to the hearts of those who experience the complexities of human relationships and the choices that define our lives. The myth of Calypso, while often overshadowed by the more grandiose tales of gods and heroes, offers a timeless narrative about the internal journey of letting go and the growth that comes from sacrifice. In Calypso's own story, the central theme is one of emotional evolution, moving from attachment and possessiveness to acceptance and selfless love. This process of letting go, though painful, leads to the greater personal growth of both Calypso and Odysseus, making their myth a reflection of the struggles we all face when confronted with love, loss, and the passage of time. At the start of the myth, Calypso is consumed by her love for Odysseus. She holds him captive on her island, offering him everything: immortality, peace, and an eternal life of comfort. In her eyes, she is giving him the greatest gift she can offer. But this act of love, however generous, is also an act of control. She desires to possess Odysseus, to keep him by her side forever. Her love is not only nurturing, but also protective, to the point of suffocation. For all her beauty and power, Calypso is, in many ways, imprisoned by her own emotions. Her love, though deep, blinds her to the fact that true love involves freedom. The freedom to choose, to grow, and, sometimes, to part ways. Odysseus's journey on her island is not just about healing his physical wounds. It is also about confronting the limitations that come with Calypso's love. He is stuck in a paradise, and though it may offer peace, it also denies him the chance to fulfill his true purpose. The tension between Odysseus's desire to return to Ithaca and Calypso's desire to keep him is symbolic of the inner conflict we all face at some point in our lives. The conflict between staying in a safe, comfortable place and moving forward to meet the challenges of life head-on. Odysseus's return to Ithaca is not just a physical journey, but a spiritual one, as he must confront the pain of leaving behind something he has come to care for. For Calypso, the act of releasing Odysseus is her moment of growth. Though her love for him is sincere, she understands, in the end, that holding on to him would only keep them both trapped. This realization, that love must allow freedom, is not easy for her. In letting go of Odysseus, Calypso sacrifices the comfort and security she has built on Ogygia, and with it, a part of herself. But in this act of sacrifice, she finds a deeper understanding of what love truly means. She learns that true love is not about keeping someone close, but about allowing them to go when their journey calls them elsewhere. This is the emotional maturity that defines her character arc. She moves from a place of possessiveness to a place of selfless love, where she wishes for Odysseus to fulfill his destiny, even if it means leaving her. For Odysseus, his journey is one of personal growth as well. While Calypso's offer of immortality represents an easy escape from the struggles of his past, he ultimately chooses to return to the challenges of his homeland. His choice is symbolic of the human drive to grow, to face adversity, and to engage fully in the complexities of life. Odysseus's decision to leave Ogygia is not just a rejection of paradise. It is a recognition that the journey itself, both the struggles and the triumphs, is what defines him. Just as Calypso must grow by letting go, Odysseus must grow by choosing his path, one that requires him to confront the unknown and the hardships of his fate. The theme of letting go and personal growth is central to the human experience. All individuals, whether they are mortals or immortals, must face the challenges that come with change, loss, and self-awareness. Calypso's story, in particular, reminds us that love can be both a source of great joy and great pain. While it is natural to want to hold on to those we love, true growth often comes from the ability to release and allow others to follow their own path. This idea is timeless, applicable not only to romantic love, but also to the relationships between parents and children, friends, and even ourselves. It is through letting go that we make room for the possibility of new growth, both for ourselves and for those we love. In the context of Greek mythology, Calypso's role as a figure of personal growth is particularly poignant. While the gods often represent the forces of fate and destiny, and the heroes often engage in physical battles to achieve glory, Calypso's struggle is an internal one. She does not fight external enemies, nor does she confront the gods in a direct battle. Instead, her journey is one of emotional maturity, of realizing that love cannot be confined by possession or control. Her struggle is the struggle of all those who love deeply and must come to terms with the fact that love cannot always be kept, no matter how much we wish it. The myth of Calypso, then, is not just a story of a woman in love with a hero, but a deeper reflection on the nature of love itself. It speaks to the universal truth that love must be free to grow, change, and even transform into something else when the time comes. It is in the act of letting go that both Calypso and Odysseus find the path to their respective personal growth. For Calypso, letting go is the ultimate act of love and sacrifice, and in doing so, she achieves the emotional growth that comes with understanding that love is not about possession, but about freedom. Her myth invites us all to reflect on our own relationships, how we hold on, how we release, and how we allow ourselves and others to grow. The theme of letting go is one that is central not just to Greek mythology, but to the core of human life. As Calypso's myth teaches us, growth and transformation are born not from holding on, but from the wisdom to release and allow the natural course of life to unfold. The myth of Calypso is not merely a story of love between a mortal hero and an immortal nymph. Beneath the surface of their interactions lies a deeply reflective narrative about the complexities of love, choice, and self-determination. As with many myths, Calypso's story transcends its historical context, offering timeless insights into the human condition. The choices made by both Calypso and Odysseus, as well as the emotional journey they each undergo, speak to universal themes that resonate across cultures and generations. In Calypso's myth, we find reflections on the nature of love that are both painful and beautiful, illustrating the delicate balance between attachment and freedom. Calypso, like many mythological figures, is both a product of her circumstances and a representative of larger forces at play. As an immortal nymph, she embodies the timelessness of nature. She is a caretaker, offering shelter, comfort, and love to Odysseus when he is shipwrecked on her shores. But she is also a figure trapped in the eternal cycle of love and loss, forever isolated on her island. In this sense, Calypso is a symbol of unfulfilled potential. Despite her beauty, power, and immortal status, she is unable to fully engage with the wider world. She is disconnected from the mortal experiences of birth, growth, aging, and death. And this distance from the natural cycles of life is what shapes her desires and her relationships. When Odysseus arrives on Ogygia, he finds solace in Calypso's embrace. She cares for him, nursing him back to health and offering him a life free from the challenges that have defined his journey. In many ways, Ogygia represents the refuge many seek in times of hardship, whether that refuge is found in a relationship, a physical place, or a state of emotional or psychological comfort. For Odysseus, Calypso's island is a sanctuary from the stormy seas of life, a place where he can rest and heal. But as time passes, Odysseus is reminded that peace, while alluring, is not enough to satisfy him. The fulfillment of one's purpose, the call of home and family, is a driving force that transcends even the most enticing offers of security. For Calypso, the choice she offers Odysseus, immortality, peace, and eternal companionship, is both a gift and a trap. She gives him the world she controls, a world where time stands still and suffering does not exist. But in doing so, she presents him with a choice that threatens his autonomy: to remain with her, to surrender his agency and embrace an existence that is devoid of growth, or to leave and return to the chaos of mortal life, where he will be forced to face the unknown and the painful truths of human existence. This tension between love and freedom, comfort and growth, is one of the central themes of Calypso's myth. It forces both Odysseus and the audience to consider what makes life meaningful. Is it the pursuit of peace, or is it the act of facing adversity and fulfilling one's potential? Odysseus's choice to leave Ogygia and return to Ithaca reflects a fundamental truth about the nature of human existence: that love, while powerful, cannot replace the need for personal growth and the pursuit of one's true purpose. His longing for home is not just a desire for physical return, but a yearning to fulfill the commitments he made to his family and his kingdom. For Odysseus, love is not the final destination, but a part of the greater journey. His decision to leave Calypso is a recognition that, despite the peace she offers, it is his duty to grow, to face the challenges of life, and to honor his place in the world. This act of leaving also speaks to the larger question of what love demands. Is love an act of possession, where one seeks to keep the other close and bound to their will? Or is love about freedom, allowing the other to grow and become their own person, even at the cost of separation? In the myth, Calypso offers Odysseus a life free from hardship, but at the cost of his freedom. Her love is deep and genuine, but it is also possessive, rooted in the desire to have him with her for eternity. For Odysseus, the love he shares with his wife, Penelope, is bound by duty and responsibility. His love for her, and the life they built together, reminds him of his purpose, even in the face of hardship. Calypso's final act of letting Odysseus go is a recognition of the true nature of love. It is not about possessing someone, but about allowing them the freedom to choose their path, to embrace their destiny, and to find fulfillment in their own journey. In this moment, Calypso's love for Odysseus becomes selfless. She understands that true love requires sacrifice, that sometimes love means letting go of what you hold dear in order to allow the other to grow. It is a bittersweet realization, one that speaks to the heart of the myth and the heart of human existence. Ultimately, Calypso's myth offers us a meditation on the nature of love and choice. It is a reflection on the painful beauty of freedom and the necessity of sacrifice in relationships. The emotional journey that Calypso undergoes, from possessiveness to acceptance, mirrors the struggles we all face when confronted with the complexities of love and the desire to hold on. The myth reminds us that love is not always about holding tight to the ones we love, but about allowing them the freedom to follow their own path, even if it leads them away from us. In this sense, Calypso's story transcends its mythological origins. It speaks to the universal truths that define human relationships: the tension between love and freedom, the sacrifices we make for those we care about, and the understanding that growth often comes from release, not possession. Calypso's journey is a timeless story of self-discovery, reminding us that love is both a gift and a responsibility, and that sometimes the greatest act of love is to let go. The myth of Calypso, though often viewed as a side story within the greater narrative of Odysseus's journey, leaves a lasting emotional impact that reverberates throughout literature, art, and even modern storytelling. Her myth, filled with longing, selflessness, and sacrifice, speaks to a fundamental aspect of the human experience: the universal conflict between attachment and freedom, between holding on and letting go. Calypso's story transcends the boundaries of its ancient context, resonating deeply with modern audiences who continue to grapple with these same emotions and questions. One of the most enduring aspects of Calypso's myth is the emotional complexity she embodies. She is not a simple figure of good or evil, nor is she just a seductive temptress or a benevolent figure. Instead, Calypso is a character of depth, torn between her intense love for Odysseus and the reality of her isolation. Her emotional journey mirrors the struggles many people face in their relationships, the tension between wanting to hold on to someone and the painful realization that true love sometimes requires release. In this way, Calypso's myth becomes a timeless exploration of human vulnerability, showing how love can both empower and entrap. In many ways, Calypso's emotional conflict is reflective of the broader themes in Greek mythology, where gods, mortals, and nymphs alike are subject to the forces of fate and desire. Greek myths often present characters who are faced with decisions that seem impossible, choices that require them to sacrifice something of themselves in order to achieve something greater. For Calypso, her decision to let go of Odysseus is the ultimate act of love and sacrifice, a recognition that love cannot always be possessed, but must allow for growth and freedom. This universal theme of selflessness and personal growth continues to resonate in modern storytelling, where characters are often asked to choose between personal desires and the well-being of others. Moreover, Calypso's story has influenced the way we think about the nature of paradise and contentment. Ogygia, as the idyllic island of Calypso, is initially portrayed as a sanctuary of peace and beauty, a place where time stands still and the usual troubles of the world seem to fade away. However, it is not long before Odysseus realizes that this paradise, for all its outward allure, is ultimately a prison for his soul. His journey is a reminder that true fulfillment in life does not come from escaping hardship or avoiding the struggles that define human existence, but from confronting them, growing through them, and fulfilling the responsibilities we are given. Calypso's offer of immortality to Odysseus can be viewed as a metaphor for the seductive nature of complacency. How many times do we, in our own lives, seek refuge in comfort and safety, only to realize that true growth and purpose lie beyond our comfort zones? This is the emotional legacy of Calypso's myth. It challenges the idea that a life free from struggle is the ideal, showing us that even the most beautiful and peaceful paradises come with hidden costs. By releasing Odysseus, Calypso ultimately teaches him and the audience a powerful lesson: that the pursuit of happiness, fulfillment, and love requires sacrifice and often a willingness to endure hardship. Her emotional journey also serves as a poignant counterpoint to the typical hero's journey. In stories like that of Odysseus, the hero must often fight external forces, monsters, gods, and enemies, to achieve his goals. But in Calypso's case, her struggle is not one of external conflict, but of internal emotional turmoil. She does not need to battle gods or creatures. Instead, she faces the much harder task of confronting her own desires and learning to let go of the man she loves. This shift from external to internal struggle enriches the story, offering a deeper, more nuanced exploration of the forces that drive people's actions and the complexities of the heart. In modern storytelling, this emotional complexity is frequently echoed. Characters like Calypso, who embody internal conflict, selfless love, and the struggle for personal growth, continue to appear in novels, films, and other forms of art. Her myth has influenced countless depictions of characters who are torn between their own desires and the needs of others. Characters who must come to terms with the reality that love often requires sacrifice. Whether in romantic relationships, familial dynamics, or friendships, the themes that Calypso's story explores remain relevant in every generation. Moreover, the emotional power of Calypso's myth has also been amplified through the lens of modern psychology, particularly in the exploration of attachment theory and the dynamics of possessive love. In modern psychological discourse, we often talk about how love can become unhealthy when one person seeks to control or possess the other. Calypso's love for Odysseus exemplifies this dynamic. Her desire to keep him by her side, to offer him everything she can, is ultimately what holds them both back from true fulfillment. This recognition that attachment must be balanced by freedom resonates strongly with modern readers who have come to understand the importance of healthy boundaries in relationships. In addition, Calypso's myth continues to serve as a model for stories of redemption and emotional healing. Just as she helps Odysseus recover from his wounds, both physical and emotional, her own journey is one of healing. The release of Odysseus, though painful, is the catalyst for her personal growth. By letting him go, she allows herself the possibility of emotional freedom, a freedom she could never experience while clinging to him. In this way, Calypso's story also represents the healing power of acceptance. It shows that sometimes the greatest act of love and healing is to acknowledge what cannot be changed and to allow others the space to evolve. The emotional legacy of Calypso's myth is profound because it speaks to the deepest aspects of the human condition. Her love is beautiful, but it is not without its flaws. Her attachment to Odysseus is powerful, but it is not all-encompassing. She is a character who, despite her flaws, undergoes emotional growth, learning that love is not about control, but about freedom, sacrifice, and selfless release. In this way, Calypso's myth continues to inspire storytellers and audiences alike, offering timeless lessons about the nature of love, loss, and personal transformation. Calypso's myth is not just a story of love and sacrifice. It is a powerful reflection on how we, as individuals, navigate the complex relationships between love, freedom, and self-realization. At its core, the myth challenges us to consider the ways in which love both binds and liberates us, and how the choice between attachment and independence is one that every person must face in their own journey. As Calypso faces the painful decision of letting Odysseus go, she reveals the universal truth that true love does not seek to possess, but to free. And in doing so, she offers us a mirror through which we can examine our own relationships and our own growth. Throughout the myth, Calypso's love for Odysseus is portrayed as genuine and deep. She cares for him, heals his wounds, and offers him peace, sanctuary, and the promise of immortality. She seeks only his companionship, offering him everything she can in an effort to keep him with her forever. But despite the serenity she offers, the emotional and philosophical dilemma at the heart of their relationship is clear. Can true love exist if it is not accompanied by freedom? Can one person love another without seeking to control them, without binding them to their will? In our own lives, these questions resonate deeply. Often, love is associated with attachment, a deep emotional bond that can sometimes become possessive. We may find ourselves holding on to relationships, whether romantic, familial, or platonic, because we fear loss, because we desire closeness, or because we feel incomplete without the other person. Like Calypso, we may offer everything we can, our time, our energy, our hearts, out of love. But in doing so, we may inadvertently stifle the growth of the other person, or even our own personal growth, by clinging too tightly. Calypso's journey shows us that love, while essential, cannot thrive if it is founded on possession. True love requires freedom. The freedom to evolve, to change, and to pursue individual destinies. Calypso's emotional growth, her ability to let Odysseus go, is a crucial aspect of the myth. It symbolizes the realization that love is not about holding on to someone out of fear or insecurity, but about allowing them the space to be who they are meant to be. Her decision to release Odysseus is not an act of abandonment, but of ultimate selflessness. She understands that he belongs not to her, but to his own fate. In that moment of self-awareness, Calypso achieves a form of self-realization, a deeper understanding of the nature of love, of sacrifice, and of the delicate balance between attachment and autonomy. This theme of self-realization is a significant part of Calypso's story, as it is for many of us in our relationships. Self-realization requires introspection and the willingness to face uncomfortable truths about ourselves. In relationships, we often must ask ourselves difficult questions. Are we holding on to this person because we truly love them, or because we need them to validate our own sense of worth? Are we able to give the other person the freedom to grow and change, or do we hold them back with our desires and expectations? Calypso's myth challenges us to examine our motivations and to question whether we are creating space for both ourselves and the people we love to be free. The tension between attachment and freedom is also echoed in the choice Odysseus faces. On the surface, it may appear that Odysseus chooses between comfort and hardship, between the easy life on Ogygia and the uncertainty of his journey home. But at a deeper level, Odysseus's choice is one of self-actualization. By leaving Calypso, he chooses to honor his commitments, to fulfill his destiny, and to return to the people and place that define him. His journey is not just about physical survival. It is about becoming who he is meant to be. The freedom Odysseus seeks is not just freedom from Ogygia, but freedom from the life that would keep him stagnant, trapped in paradise, but never truly living. In this way, Odysseus's departure from Calypso also represents the universal struggle between personal growth and the temptation of an easier, more secure life. Just as Calypso offers Odysseus the gift of immortality, many of us are tempted by the allure of a life without struggle or hardship. It may seem easier to stay in a relationship, in a job, or in a place that provides us with comfort and safety. But true self-realization often requires us to step out of our comfort zones and face the unknown. The myth suggests that while peace and security are important, they should not come at the cost of our own potential and growth. Calypso's myth teaches us that true fulfillment is found not in avoiding challenges, but in confronting them head-on and embracing the journey, however difficult it may be. What is most poignant about Calypso's story is the way it shows us the power of love to both anchor and free us. While love is an essential part of the human experience, it must be balanced by the need for personal freedom and the ability to grow. Calypso's love, though deep and selfless, ultimately teaches Odysseus and the audience that love cannot be based on possession. It must allow for the growth of the other, and it must be willing to release what it holds most dear in order to see that person become the best version of themselves. In a world where relationships are often tested by possessiveness, insecurity, and the desire to control, Calypso's myth is a reminder of the deeper truths about love. It is a reminder that love is not a force that should bind us, but one that should empower us. To love truly is to allow the other to be free, to make their own choices, and to fulfill their own purpose, even if that means parting ways. In this sense, Calypso's emotional journey is a profound lesson in the transformative power of love, one that liberates rather than confines, and one that leads to self-realization and personal growth. Calypso's story, though rooted in the mythological past, carries a timeless resonance with themes of change, transformation, and the cyclical nature of life. Her journey, one of love, loss, and acceptance, is a reflection of the larger cycles that govern the natural world, as well as the human experience. In Greek mythology, gods, nymphs, and mortals are often subject to the forces of fate, but they are also shaped by the eternal rhythms of life, death, and rebirth. Calypso's own existence as an immortal nymph is a constant reminder of these cycles, even as she exists outside of time. Through her myth, we are reminded that while immortality may free one from the physical constraints of aging, it does not protect against the emotional tides that shape all beings, mortal and immortal alike. Calypso's island, Ogygia, is itself a symbol of the cyclical nature of existence. It is an isolated paradise where time seems to stand still, where the rhythms of the world beyond are distant and irrelevant. But even in this timeless sanctuary, the forces of change and fate are at work. While Ogygia offers the eternal tranquility of an untouched world, it also becomes a prison for Calypso, a place where she is bound to wait, forever in the same moment, for a love that cannot be kept. Her immortality, rather than offering her freedom, keeps her trapped in a perpetual cycle of waiting and longing. In this way, Ogygia becomes a metaphor for the illusions of stasis and comfort that can arise in moments of personal crisis. Calypso's emotional arc, moving from attachment to release, is deeply connected to the cyclical nature of life itself. Her love for Odysseus begins as a powerful attachment, born of her desire for companionship and connection. This love represents the natural urge to hold on to something precious, to preserve it from the inevitable passage of time. However, as Odysseus is reminded by his longing for Ithaca, true growth and fulfillment require the ability to release what we hold dear. Just as Ogygia cannot remain untouched by the forces of fate, neither can love remain static without causing harm. The release of Odysseus represents Calypso's acceptance of the cyclical nature of life. That love, like everything else in nature, must eventually evolve and transform. Odysseus's departure from Ogygia is symbolic of the natural cycle of renewal and rebirth. Just as the seasons change, the tides ebb and flow, and life is continually marked by births and deaths, so too does Odysseus's journey mirror this ongoing cycle. His decision to leave Calypso and return to Ithaca represents a return to his roots, a renewal of purpose, and a recognition that no matter how tempting it may be to remain in paradise, his true role lies in the mortal world. His return to Ithaca is the fulfillment of a cycle. His journey that began with the fall of Troy now comes full circle as he reclaims his home and his family. For Calypso, the cycle is more painful. While Odysseus's departure allows for his personal growth, Calypso must remain in Ogygia, her own personal cycle unbroken. But even in her eternal state, there is a form of cyclical renewal. Her love for Odysseus teaches her that true love is not about possession, but about the willingness to let go. And in doing so, she transforms from a character driven by desire and attachment to one defined by emotional strength and self-realization. Her acceptance of Odysseus's departure marks the beginning of a new emotional cycle for her, one in which she moves from longing to acceptance, from possession to freedom. In this way, her myth demonstrates how cycles of change are necessary for growth, both personally and emotionally. The cyclical theme also connects to the greater context of Greek mythology, where many stories involve repeated patterns of rise and fall, creation and destruction, love and loss. Calypso's myth exists within a larger pattern of mortal and immortal lives that are constantly in flux. The gods and heroes of Greek mythology experience cyclical patterns of suffering, death, and rebirth. Even the gods themselves, though immortal, are not free from the forces of change that shape their existence. Calypso's myth, in many ways, mirrors the lives of these gods and mortals, highlighting the inevitability of change and the importance of accepting it. In literature and modern storytelling, the theme of cycles is prevalent. Characters often find themselves caught in cycles of behavior, desire, or circumstance, and their stories revolve around breaking or accepting these cycles. Calypso's own emotional journey, her attachment to Odysseus, followed by her eventual release of him, parallels the larger narrative of personal transformation, where the breaking of one cycle makes room for the beginning of another. The recognition of this cycle of attachment and release is essential to personal growth, just as Calypso's acceptance of Odysseus's departure is a form of emotional rebirth. Her myth encourages us to reflect on our own cycles of attachment, whether to relationships, circumstances, or desires, and how we can navigate these cycles with grace and wisdom. In the end, Calypso's myth reminds us of the inevitability of cycles in life, the rise and fall of emotions, the ebb and flow of love, the passage of time that shapes everything in its path. Her journey is one of personal realization, as she learns that to love truly is to let go, to release the attachment that binds her to the past, and to embrace the possibility of change. Though she may remain on her island, caught in the eternal cycle of waiting, her emotional growth signifies the possibility of transformation, even within the constraints of eternity. Calypso's myth is a profound meditation on the cycles of love, loss, and growth that define both mortal and immortal lives, urging us to reflect on our own journeys and how we navigate the inevitable cycles of change that shape us. As we conclude the story of Calypso, we are left with a powerful reflection on the complexities of love, loss, and the choices that shape our lives. Calypso's journey, while deeply intertwined with the hero's tale of Odysseus, stands as a profound exploration of the emotional depth and personal growth that love can inspire. Her story reminds us that love is not always about holding on, but about giving freedom, allowing others to grow, to change, and to follow their own paths. In letting Odysseus go, Calypso not only sets him free, but also frees herself, embracing the wisdom that true love often requires sacrifice. The myth of Calypso invites us to reflect on our own relationships and the choices we make. Are we holding on too tightly to the ones we love, fearing their departure or growth? Or are we able to love in a way that allows for freedom, understanding that love is not about possession, but about support, encouragement, and release? Calypso's story is timeless in its ability to speak to these universal human experiences. While her myth may not be as celebrated as others in Greek mythology, Calypso's emotional journey, from attachment to acceptance, offers deep lessons in the power of love and the strength that comes from letting go. As we look to the future, we can take with us the lesson of Calypso's selfless love, a love that understands the importance of choice, freedom, and the cycles of growth that define our lives. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the myth of Calypso. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let me know where you're watching from. May this myth continue to inspire reflection on the nature of love, sacrifice, and the freedom that allows us to truly grow.